Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto mastered the 9 tails early. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by A7's Fanatic 1195 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1 Prologue. Uzumaki Naruto was floating in a sea of blackness. The warm, comforting darkness that surrounded him caressed his body, preventing any of his injuries from interfering with his thoughts. Unfortunately for him, that is exactly what he had been hoping his unconsciousness would do. At least he would be able to escape from the guilt weighing on his mind. You sippa GKI. You nearly got us both killed. And get out of the lecture his 9-tailed tenant was giving him. I don't give a damn about you, and would gladly let you die under any other circumstances, but you're not the only one affected. If you die, then I die, you stupid baka. Naruto sighed, praying for someone to wake him up sometime soon. The fox had been going on about Baka this, ninja that ever since he had lost consciousness. It was really starting to grate on his nerves. Why would you let the Uchiha brat put us in this state? Why didn't you go for the kill? The Kyuubi roared, growing annoyed with his container simply remaining silent. What was I supposed to do? Naruto asked, his voice flat and hollow. Even the Kyuubi was taken aback by how depressed he sounded. I could never do something like that to Sasuke Nizan. Even if I died, I could never kill someone precious to me. But it doesn't matter now, because now my precious people won't care about me anymore. I failed, and Sakura Nichin will hate me for it. Naruto's voice never wavered from his monotone, showing just how broken he was. Pathetic Nijen. The Kyuubi snorted softly, attempting to cover up the fact that Naruto's state actually affected him. If you had simply remained distant to the Uchiha brat and the pink-haired banshee, then none of this would have happened. Naruto simply looked over at the Kyuubi, his normally brilliant blue eyes now dull and cloudy. Nizan and Neichan are the only reason that my life is worth living, along with Hinata-chan and Kakashi-sensei. They are the only ones who have seen the true me, and accepted me. Without them, I would be just like Gaara. There was a slight tone of indignation in his voice, stemming from the fact that the Kyuubi was belittling the attachments he had. Now, I won't even have those. Nizan severed his bonds with me with the Chidori, Neichan will never forgive me for breaking my promise, and Hinata-chan and Kakashi-sensei will think I'm pathetic. Naruto's voice gradually became filled with rage, until he was screaming his frustration into the dark. The Kyuubi was stunned by the depths of his host's feelings, completely caught off guard by Naruto's admissions. The 1,000-year-old fox thought back to something he hadn't thought about in hundreds of years, the promise he made to his Two-san. Now, he saw a way to fulfill the promise he has neglected for nearly a millennia, in the form of the blonde 13-year-old in front of him. Then get stronger. The Kyuubi replied gruffly. Naruto snapped his head towards the floating cage so fast Kyuubi was sure he had gotten whiplash. If you aren't strong enough to get the Uchiha back, then get stronger. If you truly want to change the minds of those pathetically narrow-minded and hateful villagers, then get stronger. If you want to claim the pale-eyed girl as your mate, Naruto turned red at the implication, and began sputtering out denials, then get stronger. The Kyuubi finished, ignoring the blonde's protests at Hinata being referred to as his mate. I have watched you grow, Kit, and I believe you are different from the other humans I have met. Instead of giving into hatred for being despised, ignored, and abused by those who do not understand you, you have taken their hatred and attempted to change it into respect and admiration, and not once did you stop protecting them. My Two-san once told me that in order to change the world, we need to follow this mantra: you shall not hate, you shall forgive. You shall not attack, you shall defend. You shall not pity, you shall understand. Only by following these teachings can you change the world, my children. The Kyuubi sighed, a mournful look on his face. We attempted to follow our Taozin's mantra, myself and the other Biju, but we eventually gave in to the hatred that the humans displayed. Now it is time I remembered the purpose my Two-san set for us, to change the world, and end the hatred that lurks in every human's heart. Naruto was absolutely flabbergasted. His saucer-sized eyes were nearly bulging out of his sockets, and his body was completely slack. It was a good thing he was floating in the representation of his unconscious mind, otherwise he would have fallen and bashed his head on whatever floor he had been standing on. The Kyuubi chuckled at the young Uzumaki's shocked expression, before continuing his explanation. I will allow to use my power, and help you gain more, if you promise me one thing: don't ever give up who you are. Continue striving for greatness, Kit, and one day you will change the world. The Kyuubi said softly, almost tenderly, smiling at Naruto. It wasn't a vicious smirk, or a bloodthirsty grin, but a real smile. Naruto finally recovered his voice, before asking one simple question. Why? Why me? Why are you going to help me all of a sudden? How come you only realize that I only want to help people now? Who's your Two-san? Well, maybe more than one question. Quiet! The Kyuubi bellowed. The teen instantly shut his mouth with an audible clop, and the QB glared at him through the cage bars. Cease your incessant questioning. I will explain all to you in due time, but now the QB trailed off, as the mindscape began to shift. Naruto felt gravity overtake him, and soon he and the QB were falling downwards. I believe it is time you woke up. People have been waiting for you. Naruto barely registered the QB's parting words. The sewer room that represented the Hakno Fuinshiki came into view, and he screamed as he hurtled towards the stone floor. His body hit the ground with a loud thud, and his world shifted. Completely unaware of the drama unfolding inside the unconscious blonde's mind, several people were waiting anxiously for his return to consciousness. All of them were gathered in his hospital room, and had been waiting several days for Senju Tsunade, the Gondame Hokage and the foremost medical ninja in the world, to end the hyperactive knucklehead's enforced coma. Including Tsunade herself were the remnants of Team 7, Haruno Sakura and Hatake Kakashi. Both were positioned to Naruto's right, knowing that to be his dominant side, praying for him to wake up soon. Both had decided to drop the act they kept up in public around each other, which had been devised by Naruto to keep them safe from those who hated him for his tenet, and were letting their concern show through. Sakura wanted her Ototo to wake up and annoy her again, and Kakashi wanted the boy he treated like a son to awaken and brighten his life again. They had already lost one member of their little family, and couldn't stand the thought of losing another. To the left of Naruto's bed were Hyuga Hinata and Nara Shikamaru. Hinata was concerned for the boy she loved, having no idea that he returned her feelings, and Shikamaru wanted to make sure the last member of his retrieval team would pull through. The Nara felt responsible for Naruto's condition, and since the other members of the team had already pulled through, he could focus solely on Naruto. Off to the side were Tswanda and her apprentice, Kaito Shizen, whom were administering another dose of a counter-sedative. They had already administered some already, but something was keeping Naruto from waking up. Hokage-sama, why isn't Naruto waking up? Yumino Irika, Naruto's academy teacher and surrogate older brother, asked nervously. The scared Chunin was pacing near the foot of Naruto's cot, clearly worried for the blonde prankster. Grr, I don't know. Tswanda snapped, thumping her fist against the floor organizer in frustration. The busty blonde underestimated her strength, as always, and left a sizable dent in the machine's paneling. I've already administered 2 extra strength doses, but something is keeping him from waking up. His delta brain waves suggest that he's dreaming, but not even an Uzumaki should be able to sleep through this. A vein pulsed in Swanda's forehead, indicating her fury over Naruto's refusal to awaken. Won't that hurt him, Tsunade-sama? Kakashi asked worriedly. The silver-haired man blamed himself for Naruto's condition, having focused more on Sasuke than his other students/children, and believed that if he had taught Naruto more then he wouldn't be in such a terrible state. I mean, 2 doses is pushing it, but with them both being extra strength. Are you questioning my medical expertise, Hatake? Tsunade asked him ominously. No. I'm just worried is all. Kakashi waved his hands in front of his face, attempting to placate the blonde. He had no doubt that, in her irrational state over Naruto's inability to wake up, he could easily end up with severe injuries from her monstrous strength. Good. Tsunade huffed. And I understand your concern, but Naruto will be just fine. The Gaki's body is more resilient than anyone I've ever seen, so he should be alright. Tsunade examined several other monitors, discerning facts from the readouts that would appear to be gibberish to anyone else. Naruto-kun is strong. Everyone's eyes focused on the source of the small voice that spoke up, noting that the comment came from none other than Hinata. He never gives up, so I know he'll be okay. Sakura was taken aback by the absolute confidence in Hinata's statement, but gave a small smile to the indigo-haired girl since she was the first to recover from the novelty of hearing Hinata speak without a stutter. Of course he will. He's too stubborn and stupid to do anything else. Sakura said affectionately, looking at the sleeping blonde before her. Kakashi smiled at the pinkette, the crinkling of his only visible eye the only indication that he was. Of course. He's going to be Hokage one day, I'd expect nothing less from our future leader. Shikamaru and Hinata looked stunned. Neither had seen this side of Team 7, the familial side, and so their confidence in Naruto came as an absolute shock. They looked at each other, making sure they had both seen the rabid, Naruto-hating, Sasuke fangirl and lazy, apathetic sensei who played favorites actually show concern and affection for their dobe of a teammate. Troublesome. Shikamaru muttered under his breath. Everyone heard him, however, and he quickly found himself pinned by Sakura's glare. What was that, Shikamaru? The kunoichi growled. What's so troublesome about me caring for my little Naruto baka? She prepared to march around the cot and deliver a friendly bop to the lazy genius, but was stopped by her sensei's outstretched arm. Relax, Sakura, Kakashi said calmly, lazily gazing at the other 2 genin in the room. No one knows how we act in private. The copy-nin reminded her upon sensing her confusion, before giving her a smile after letting her think it over for a moment. Of course, our first-rate acting didn't exactly give us the best impression of a functioning team, let alone one that thinks of each other as a family. Sakura smiled at Kakashi, while Hinata and now Irika remained completely confused. Shikamaru, however, had a small frown on his face as he tried to piece together the statements of the conscious members of Team 7, while Tsunade and Shizen continued to examine their instruments in order to find out what was keeping Naruto from waking up. Suddenly, Naruto's heart monitor began rapidly beeping, drawing the attention of everyone in the room. The blonde's face contorted into a rictus of pain, causing Tsunade and Shizen to spring into action. Shizen! Grab the morphine, 10 cc's! Tsunade barked, pushing Hinata and Shikamaru aside to reach Naruto. Shizen nodded, and scrambled out of the room to comply with her master's orders. Tsunade's palms began to glow a soft green, and she began scanning Naruto's body for the source of his pain. Hokage-sama, what's wrong? Shikamaru shouted, taking his mind off of his earlier ponderings for a moment. Is Naruto okay? The question was quickly echoed by Sakura, Hinata, Kakashi, and Irika in quick succession. Tsunade ignored them all, continuing to move her hands up and down Naruto's body. They stopped for a moment over his stomach, briefly flashing brighter for a moment, before continuing on. They came to rest on his forehead, and Tsunade's face was completely stoic as she halted her diagnostic jutsu. The Gundam quickly turned to the others in the room, including Shizen, who had returned with the requested item, and everyone held their breath at her grim visage. However, everyone let out a breath of relief as a small smile broke out across Tsunade's face. He's fine. The counter-sedatives finally took effect, and his brain was finally brought out of its comatose state. He'll be waking up soon, she informed them. Hinata and Sakura both had large smiles on their faces, with the former having a slight blush across her cheeks. Shikamaru crossed his arms and huffed out a troublesome under his breath, but the smirk on his lips betrayed his true feelings. Irika was grinning widely along with Shizen. Tsunade was pleased by everyone's reactions to the news that her favorite Gaki would be okay. The blonde truly cared for him like the son she never had, or her annoying little grandson, and having others who truly cared warmed her heart. However, she shifted back into doctor mode as soon as everyone finished processing the news. As nice as it is that the Gaki will be up and complaining soon, I'm afraid that none of you will get to talk with him for very long. His body is still weak from being in a medically induced coma for nearly a week, so he won't be awake for long. I advise you all to say what you need to and make it brief once he wakes up. A chorus of disgruntled and stoic highs rang in the small room, quickly punctuated by a soft groan. Everyone spun on their heels, eyes widening as they identified the origins of the groan. In a flash, Sakura and Kakashi were back in their original positions, hoping to be the first things that greeted Naruto when his eyes opened. Naruto groaned softly as he finally returned to the land of the living, cursing his method of awakening in his head. The damn fox just had to go and get all emotional and motivational on him, then drop him hundreds of feet to hard concrete. He refused to open his eyes, however, as the first thing he felt as the last of his unconsciousness fled was pain. He knew he was in the hospital, based on the fact that his body was wrapped in something and his body was pressed into something that was infinitely more comfortable than the rocky outcropping he passed out on. Still, that didn't mean he had to like it. Ototo-kun? A soft voice called out, very close to his right side. His eyes shot open, and he immediately turned to the source of the noise. He had been hoping, praying that he would have more time to come up with something to say to his Nei-chan and sensei on why he failed back to bring an Aisen back, but it appeared that that was not the case. Because standing at his bedside were the two people he definitely didn't want to see, not until he had time to prepare. Vibrant blue met stunning green and deep gray eyes, or eye, in Kakashi's case, and tears began to well up. Despite the assurances of Tsunade and Shizen, the two most promising doctors ever, Kakashi and Sakura couldn't shake the horror and worry that had plagued them when they had seen the state Sasuke had put Naruto in. Seeing his eyes finally open was a supreme relief to them both. "Nene-cha-chan?" Naruto croaked out, his throat dry from nearly a week without water. Sakura grinned at the label, and tears streamed down her face as she pulled him into a tight hug. She was supporting most of his weight, but she didn't care. The little ball of sunshine she had adopted as her little brother was going to be okay. Likewise, Kakashi was overjoyed that Naruto was on his way to recovery. The guilt of favoring Sasuke and neglecting his other students' training, despite viewing and treating them as surrogate children, weighed heavily on his mind. This was exacerbated by the fact that Sasuke had used the technique that Kakashi gave to him, thinking of him as his own son, to nearly kill Naruto. Naruto was completely and utterly lost. He was absolutely certain that Sakura and Kakashi would hate him for failing to bring back Sasuke, but instead they were crying over him, or tearing up, in Kakashi's case, and were relieved that he was okay. He hastily grabbed Sakura by the upper arms, and shoved her away from him. Sakura, his rejection of the embrace he always cherished with his Nei-chan catching her by surprise, stumbled back into Kakashi. Only his reflexes as an elite shinobi prevented them from both falling to the ground. They both looked up at Naruto in shock and sadness, the former coming from his expression. He was propped up on his left arm, his right held across his body as if he was afraid they would hurt him. His rejection also stunned everyone else in the room. Tsunade and Shizen already knew about the kind of relationship Team 7 held, having learned about it from Naruto when he went to retrieve Suanda to become Hokage, and were surprised he would reject comforting from the girl he loved like a sister, whom he would do anything for. Iruka, Shikamaru, and Hinata were utterly shocked that he would reject an embrace from his crush, though they were beginning to suspect that they had a different relationship if what they called each other was anything to go by. "Oh, Toro-kun, why?" Sakura choked out, her heart filling with worry and sadness. "If this is about Sasuke-kun, I'm so sorry," Sakura sobbed. "I should never have made you promise that, Ototo. I was being stupid and selfish, and you had to fight your Nizen because of that dumb promise." Sakura wailed, convinced that her dear little brother hated her for making him fight his precious older brother, the person he loved and looked up to more than anyone else. "And no, Nei-chan, it's not your fault," Naruto cried out, his voice raspy from a lack of hydration. He was too late though. Sakura had already bolted for the door. In her haste to escape, she failed to hear Naruto's response. Throwing open the door, she sped through doorway to get away from the family member she failed. "Nei-chan!" Naruto called out, trying to halt her retreat, but to no avail. She was gone. "Kakashi-sensei," Naruto begged, looking desperately at his father figure, hoping for his help in this situation. Kakashi turned his stunned eyes from the door, having watched his surrogate daughter sprint from the room in tears, to the little blonde on the bed. His heart was already cracking, and seeing the desperation on Naruto's face broke it in two. He nodded, understanding the pleading in the blonde's eyes, and poofed away. Naruto simply let the tears flow, the overwhelming sadness he had been feeling finally washing over him. When he had been talking to the Kyuubi, the dam holding it back had been strong. He felt there was no way in hell that Sakura or Kakashi would ever forgive him for failing to bring back Sasuke, thus destroying their little family. When he had awoken, the shock of having them still concerned for him, and willing to call him family had been too much, and he had pushed Sakura away. Now, with him being the cause for her tears, he was terrified that the forgiveness they had was gone, and he would lose his family. His most precious people. Everyone else simply watched the drama unfold, unwilling or unable to get involved. Tsunade, Shizen, and surprisingly Hinata, were all aware that despite the comfort they wanted to give Naruto, only Sakura would be able to alleviate his pain. Iruka had stepped forward, ready to enfold Naruto in a comforting embrace, but was held back by Shikamaru's cage main no jutsu. The Nara simply found it too troublesome to intervene, but he also figured the same thing that the three females already had. Unfortunately for him, Iruka actually spoke out in protest. "Shikamaru, let me go," Iruka growled. His soft spot for his favorite former student didn't tolerate anyone that caused Naruto pain or stopped someone from relieving it, and in his eyes, Shikamaru was guilty of the second. Feeling his own head shake in response, Iruka grit his teeth and focused his chakra. Breaking free of the jutsu with surprising ease, Iruka stepped forward and placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. "Naruto." Iruka was cut off as the blonde whirled around, the touch finally breaking him out of his trance, with surprise etched all over his features. "Iruka-sensei?" he cried hoarsely, before noticing the rest of the people in the room. Tsunade and Shizen, he knew, having personally told them, already knew about the facade his team put up to protect them from those who hated him, but the other two did not. "Hinata-chan? Shikamaru?" Naruto cried out their names as he noticed who was now privy to the secret of Team 7. His surprise and horror were cut short, however, as a fist slammed down onto the top of his skull. Hinata turned scarlet, having easily heard Naruto's affectionate honorific attached to her name, while at the same time her face twisted into an expression of horror as Tsunade clocked him over the head. Shikamaru merely grunted and stuck his pinky in his ear after the blonde finished shouting. "Troublesome. You really shouldn't yell, Naruto, this is a hospital." The lazy Chunin drawled, a thoughtful expression on his face. "Although, now that I think about it, this secret should have been obvious. Every other team became closer as we trained and went on missions, while you guys stayed the same. I guess it was just too troublesome to admit that you guys became family, huh?" Shikamaru hypothesized. Naruto sniffed, wiping away some of his tears. He didn't want to appear weak in front of Hinata. He shook his head at Shikamaru's question, hesitating when he, Hinata, and Iruka looked at him for an answer. Ignoring them for a minute, he looked over at Tsunade, who had approached on the right side in order to silence his yelling, and gave a tired smile that was obviously forced. "Hey Abachan, don't you know that you're not supposed to hit sick people?" Naruto asked rhetorically, a small hint of anger in his voice. The blonde Hokage snorted, staring down her fellow blonde. "Didn't you hear? Fools never get sick." She chuckled a bit as Naruto's expression changed from puzzlement to indignation. She reached forward and ruffled his hair. Good to see you up, Gaki. Naruto smiled at her, before his expression quickly went back to depression as he remembered what happened with Sasuke then Sakura. Putting that in the back of his mind, since there was absolutely nothing he could do about it, he focused on the other people who had been with him on the failed retrieval mission. Bachan, is everyone else okay? You know, Chuji, Niji, Kiba, and Bushy Brows? Naruto asked, desperate to know what had become of his comrades and feeling immensely guilty for not thinking of them sooner. Said woman sighed, knowing that this was coming. Yes, everyone is going to be fine, although it was a very close call with Chuji and Niji. You, however, got the worst of it by far. Tsunade's face grew dark as she recalled the state Naruto was in when Kakashi brought him in. That bastard of an Uchiha nearly killed you. Multiple broken ribs, a punctured lung, severe burns, a gaping hole in your shoulder. I swear, Gaki, if it weren't for the fact that the wound was cauterized by the electricity, you would have. Tsunade trailed off, finally realizing what effect her rant was having on the blonde. Naruto felt terrible. All the things that had been done to him had been done by Sasuke, his idol, his rival, his Nizan. The one person he looked up to more than anyone else, the first person to understand him, and a member of the Team 7 family, had come within an inch of killing him. Speaking of family, a poof heralded the arrival of Kakashi, apparently back from wherever Sakura had led him. Said girl was being held bridal style in his arms, her eyes puffy and red from crying. Kakashi also looked visibly upset, and it was obvious that he had shed a few tears as well. Naruto looked over at them, tears welling up in his eyes as Kakashi gently set Sakura on her feet. Nei-chan, Naruto whimpered, instantly drawing Sakura's attention. The pinkette looked at the pleading expression on his face, and quickly rushed over to him. She wrapped one of her arms around his neck, the other lacing itself in his golden spikes. Naruto instantly felt the warmth of his Nei-chan's embrace wash over him, and he finally let himself go. He buried his face in her shoulder, and cried out all of the hurt that he had over Sasuke's betrayal, and all of the relief he had over still having his family. Kakashi came over and joined them, wrapping his arms around the shoulders of his students. Team 7 was still a family. An incomplete family, but a family nevertheless. How are you feeling, Gaki? Naruto bolted upright at the sound of a masculine voice coming from the window. Turning to his right, he saw his on-again off-again teacher, author of the renowned Ika Ika series, and self-proclaimed super pervert, the Sannin Jiraiya. Ero-sennin? What are you doing here? Naruto asked. Ever since the hyperactive blonde was reunited with, what remained, his adopted family/team, he was in a much better mood. Flashback. Of course we don't hate you, Otoro-kun. Sakura reassured him, with Kakashi nodding vehemently over her shoulder. They were alone in the room, so they could speak freely. You tried your hardest to bring Sasuke-kun back to us, back to me. I should never have asked you to do it because I was too weak to. Sakura pulled back from Naruto, sniffling as she recalled seeing his broken form slung over Kakashi's back. Because of that. It's fine, Nei-chan. Naruto interrupted, hoping to avoid another bout of crying from the guilt-stricken girl. I would have promised anyway. You wouldn't be happy without Nizan, so I had to be a good Otoro and bring him back. Naruto puffed his chest out proudly, causing Sakura to giggle and Kakashi to chuckle. I know. Sakura smiled softly at him. You are the best Otoro anyone could ask for. The pinkette said fondly. She knew how lucky she was to have gotten to know the real Naruto, instead of the idiot mask he put up, and she thanked Kami every chance she got. No matter how bad things got, he was always there for her and Sasuke. The last thought caused her to frown slightly, her resolve to return the favor stronger than ever now. But next time, I'm gonna be just as strong, so we can get your Nizan back together. Naruto smiled. Not his goofy grin, or a smile to hide the pain he felt, but a true smile, and it lit up the room. Kakashi had a permanent smile on his face, judging from his eye, as he watched two of the three he viewed as children interact. Naruto, Kakashi spoke up, with both the blonde and pinkette turning to him. We will get Sasuke back. The jonin reassured. We'll find him, and when we get him back, I'll stop playing favorites. He vowed, wanting to correct his mistakes. I should never have abandoned you guys to train him, even if you guys said it was okay. Maybe if I hadn't. Nah, Kakashi-sensei, not you too. Naruto wagged his finger, a cross between a pout and a stern expression on his face. No more looking back on stuff. If you start doing it again, me and Nei-chan will have to take away your books again. Kakashi immediately put his hand to his supply pouch where his Ika Ika was, while Naruto and Sakura grinned evilly. No! Don't take away the precious. Kakashi will be a good boy, Kakashi promises. He wailed, bowing his head to the ground. He was interrupted from his begging by a snort, as Sakura tried to contain her laughter. The jonin's head shot up, and the pleading expression on it caused the genin to burst into hysterics. I guess I deserve that. Kakashi chuckled, joining on his students' laughter. Flashback end. Naruto was interrupted from his musings by the voice of his teacher, who was staring at him in annoyance. "Stop calling me that, Gaki! Show some respect," Jiraiya shouted. "I'll stop calling you that when you stop being a pervert," Naruto retorted. "I already told you. I'm not a pervert," Jiraiya protested, before a lecherous grin spread across his face. "I'm a super pervert," he declared proudly, thumbing his chest. Naruto stared at the Sannin, his eyebrow twitching. "What do you want, Ero-sennin?" The blonde deadpanned, causing the self-proclaimed super pervert to face fault. "Kids these days have no respect for their elders," Jiraiya whined, twin waterfalls running down his face. Naruto simply snorted in response, and the Sannin decided it was time to stop messing around. "In all seriousness, I want to train you. Full time," Jiraiya offered, and Naruto's eyes widened at the prospect. "But you have to do one thing for me first." "I'm not using my Oroku no Jutsu again." Jiraiya face faulted again. "Stupid Gaki, that's not what I was going to ask," Jiraiya screamed, smacking Naruto across the head. Taking a deep breath, Jiraiya managed to ignore the unflattering curses that his prospective student was muttering, continuing with his earlier line of thought. "No, I want you to forget about Sasuke. He's lost to you, and nothing you will ever do can get him to come back. Only a fool would continue to chase after him. So if I'm going to train you, then you need to give up on him." Naruto's eyes widened to the size of saucers, before turning into a menacing scowl. The blonde didn't notice, but his teacher did. His eyes flashed red for a moment before shifting back to their normal blue. "Then I'm a fool," Naruto stated bluntly, surprising the Sannin. "And I'll remain a fool for the rest of my life if I have to. I never give up on my friends, especially if it's Sasuke Nizan. Besides, I promised Sakura Nichin that I would get her boyfriend back, and I never go back on my word. That's my Nindo, and I would rather die than abandon it." The blonde spoke with such conviction, such strength of will, Jiraiya could have sworn he was looking at the ghost of his former student. "Well then, I guess we better make you strong enough to survive as a fool, eh?" The Sannin joked, enjoying the look of shock that spread across his new apprentice's face. "We'll be leaving tomorrow. We'll be gone for almost 3 years, so pack only the important stuff." 3 years? Naruto's eyes bugged out of his head. He could learn a lot of stuff during that time. But as the excitement wore off, he became worried about Sakura and Kakashi. "But what about?" "Relax, Gaki, I already cleared it with Kakashi," Jiraiya assured him. "And that pink-haired banshee you call a sister has just been accepted as Swandaheim's apprentice, so she'll be training hard too." Jiraiya chuckled, before an evil grin spread across his face. Naruto quailed at the look his master was giving him. "You two are in for hell, you know that, right? Tsunade and I will break you, build you back up, then break you again. It will be the toughest thing you've ever done, and it will be up to you if you succeed at the end or not." Naruto simply matched the grin with one of his own, impressing the Sannin. "I'm ready for anything, Ero-sennin. I'll take whatever you throw at me and give it right back twice as hard. I'll never quit, and I don't run. I will beat your stupid training, then I'll be that much closer to becoming Hokage." Naruto shouted the last part, jumping out of his bed and glaring up at his new master. "That's the spirit, Gaki," Jiraiya smirked. The Sannin knew that if his new student was anything like his father, then by the time he was through with him, he'd be an absolute monster. "Well, I've gotta go take care of some research before we head out. Don't forget, the front gate's at 7 tomorrow. Be there, or I'm leaving your butt behind." With that last bit of information, the Toad Sage jumped out the window. Naruto watched him go for a moment, before ripping off the bandages that covered him from head to toe. Hurriedly grabbing his ragged clothes from the nightstand, he rushed into the bathroom. Giving a nod to his completely healed reflection, despite the dull ache in his chest, he quickly shucked his hospital gown and pulled on the remains of his orange jacket and pants. Clothed in the remains of his previous outfit, he dashed to the window, before leaping off to his apartment. "All right, Ero-sennin, let's get moving," the exuberant teen shouted, before being slapped across the back of the head. "Be quiet, Gaki," Jiraiya growled, rubbing his throbbing temples. "I've got one hell of a hangover, in addition to a sleepless night." The Sannin paused, then giggled perversely. "Worth it." "Whatever. Baka Ero-sennin," Naruto muttered, shouldering the pack that fell of when he was smacked. He had the basics inside: food, clothes, his money, all of his ninja tools, and the picture of Team 7. It depressed him that he didn't get to say goodbye to anyone, but at least Tsunade-bachan would tell them where he was. Heaving a sigh, he looked up at his new sensei, only to find him smirking and looking at something behind Naruto. "Otoro-baka, you didn't think you could leave without saying goodbye, did you?" Sakura called out, her tone mocking yet loving. Naruto whirled around, and his eyes widened as he spotted nearly everyone he knew there. Sakura and Kakashi were there, leading the way for everyone else. Just behind them were Tucci and Aya Michiraku, with bright but sad smiles on their faces. Behind them was Team 8, with Kiba wrapped in an upper body cast from his injuries. Hinata was blushing lightly, but had small smile on her face. Shino, stoic as ever, showed no outward emotion, although the buzzing of his Kikai bugs showed that he was happy. Kurenai was walking right behind Hinata, a small smile on her face. Next was Team 9, although Niji was stuck in a wheelchair, and Lee was hobbling on crutches. Tenten was pushing Niji, a very slight blush on her face that quickly disappeared as she examined their sensei. Guy was assisting his clone, while spouting nonsense about their flames of youth being too bright to dampen. Last but not least was Team 10, with a surprisingly skinny Chuji leading the way. Based on the amount of chips he was scarfing at an inhuman speed, that wouldn't last long. Ino was looking at him in slight disgust and mild fascination, while Shikamaru simply seemed half asleep. Asuma had a small smile on his face, and for once the bearded jonin wasn't smirking. Naruto grinned, happy tears in his eyes as all of his precious people came to wish him goodbye. None of them were long goodbyes, but they were all meaningful. A tearful hug with Ayam and Sakura, a fatherly talk with Kakashi, some back slapping and praising from Chuji, Kiba, Lee, and surprisingly Niji, a scolding for leaving her best friend for 3 years from Ino, well wishes from all the Jonin sensei, and a spandex suit from Guy, which Kakashi promptly burned. Finally, having tried to hide at the back, Hinata came forward, fiddling with a small jar in her hands. "Hey Hinata," Naruto said softly, a true smile still etched on his face. The indigo-haired girl felt her insides melt, and a fierce heat rushed to her face. Red as a tomato, she thrust the container into Naruto's face while bowing her head. Naruto cocked his head to the side, closing his eyes in puzzlement, while inwardly grinning at her shy behavior. "What's this?" he asked dumbly, hoping to coax her into talking. It's some of my medical CR cream th that I am made," she stammered out, cursing her stutter. She waited for a response for nearly a full minute, before finally deciding to look at his face. What she saw made her blush intensify, and nearly made her faint. Naruto was looking at her with his vivid blue eyes, a small smile spreading across his face. Said eyes sparkled with happiness and admiration, with just a hint of mischief. "Thank you, Hinata-chan," Naruto said sincerely, taking the cream out of her hands. A slight blush adorned his cheeks when their hands touched, but it went completely unnoticed by Hinata. Said Hyuga had completely frozen up, her mind nearly shutting down. Her skin went completely white as her love-struck mind tried to process what her not-so-little crush had said. The instant the words registered, nearly a full 15 seconds after they were spoken, her face quickly competed with the rising sun for brightness. She attempted to stammer out a response, before Naruto's blue eyes became too much for her, and she resorted to her ultimate defense mechanism. She fainted, right into the waiting arms of Kurenai. Naruto blinked in shock, before snickering as his plan came to fruition. "Hehe, was wondering when that was gonna happen. It's pretty cute," the blonde said, rubbing the back of his head sheepishly as Kurenai and Niji glared at him. The looks simply didn't affect him, having received them his entire life, and he simply pocketed the cream before turning to Jiraiya. "Enough of the cutesy crap Gaki, we've got stuff to do. So get your rear in gear, and let's go." The Sannin huffed in annoyance. His annoyance stemmed from the fact that when he had tried to take notes on Naruto and Hinata's interaction, Kurenai had ripped his notebook out of his hands and tossed it to Kakashi, who set it on fire. The former simply hated perverts, while both refused to have their students be used for the Sannin's perverted book series, despite Kakashi being an avid fan. Jiraiya had lost nearly a week's worth of drawings and notes, for Kami's sake, and that annoyed the crap out of him. So the irritable super pervert simply turned and started strolling down the road, intent on covering a lot of ground during the day. Naruto waved one last goodbye, before turning and hurrying after the retreating Toad Sage. Teams 8 to 10 quickly separated to begin their own days, while Kakashi and Sakura remained at the gate until Naruto disappeared from view. "I wish he could have stayed," Sakura sniffed, saddened by the leaving of her Otuto. "I just get the feeling that something really bad is going to happen to him." She looked over at Kakashi, who gave her a reassuring smile. "I'm sure he'll be fine," the cycloptic Jonin assured her. "After all, he is the #1 most unpredictable knuckleheaded ninja. I'm sure he'll be back before you know it, and stronger than ever." Sakura smiled at his reassurance, before he placed a hand on her shoulder and guided her away. "Now, if I'm not mistaken, you have some training to get to with Hokage-sama." 3 years. He hadn't been here in 3 years. Naruto stepped through the gates of his old home, ignoring the shocked looks from the guards as he passed. Jiraiya smirked at their expression while he kept pace with his apprentice. The blonde looked up at the Sannin, noticing the small margin between their heights, with a pleading look on his face. The old man sighed before nodding. Naruto grinned, before adjusting the bundle in his arms. He leapt up to the top of a nearby pole, being extremely careful while doing so, and gazed excitedly over his home. "Wow, this place hasn't changed a bit," his deep voice said fondly, before smiling softly at the squeal that came from the bundle in his arms. He quickly took a deep breath, before shouting out for everyone to hear. "Hey everyone! Uzumaki Naruto is back!" Chapter 2, Welcome Back. Konoha no Sato was peaceful and quiet underneath the morning sun. The civilians went about their business, children happily played in the streets and parks, and the shinobi were busy returning or embarking on missions, or training to get stronger and advance through the ranks. None of them were aware of the return of a pair of shinobi that were about to put Konoha on its ear. Well, at least it would be off its ass. Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto stood atop the pole, looking out over the village. He smiled softly, recalling all the good times he had had here, shoving the unpleasant memories that tried to surface to the back of his mind. He shifted the bundle in his arms as it began to squirm, trying to get it comfortable. As he tended to it, he quietly took note of the fact that Swanda's face was now carved upon the Hokage monument, and that other than that, the village had changed slightly, and that he would have to explore later. For now, he settled for remarking on the fact that his mother figure's face was carved into the mountainside. Had they finally put old Bachan's ugly mug up, eh? Good thing I don't have a view of the monument, otherwise you would be freaking out in the morning, eh? He snickered, looking loving down at the fidgety burden he was carrying. Jiraiya chuckled as he gazed at the silhouette of his student. The village wasn't the only thing that had changed. Naruto had grown like a weed, both physically and mentally, and his newest challenge had definitely helped him grow by leaps and bounds. The Gama Senin's own appearance hadn't changed in the slightest, but his apprentice's definitely had. The blonde was now far taller than he used to be. While once the second shortest of his generation at 147 centimeters, 4 feet, 10 inches, he was now 179 centimeters, 5 feet, 10 inches, nearly as tall as Kakashi. Along with his change in height came a change in physique. Jiraiya had put the boy on a far healthier diet than simply eating ramen, and the results definitely showed. The days of Naruto being scrawny, almost unhealthily thin were long gone. He had an athlete's body, with toned muscles that weren't large nor small. As Naruto turned to look at his sensei, grinning at the laughter he caused, Jiraiya nearly had a small heart attack at how similar to his father Naruto looked. Many other passerby had a much more severe reaction, having not seen the blonde in 3 years. The baby fat on Naruto's face that used to make him look cute in a boyish sort of way had been burned off by a harsh training regime and better diet. His jaw was now chiseled, and whisker marks were even more pronounced. His high cheekbones were revealed, and they complemented his brilliant blue eyes. His hair was shorter and messier than when he left, with the spikes mostly drooping haphazardly on his head. His now black headband held back the mess, having his Hitai transferred to it. To many of the passing people, and Jiraiya himself, it seemed like the yondaime had been reborn with whisker marks and a shorter haircut. The outfit didn't help either. Gone was the tacky and dangerous Kill Me Now orange jacket and pants. Now Naruto wore tan pants that fit similarly to his old pair, just longer, over a pair of black shinobi sandal boots. Just underneath the pants, since they were loose enough for people to see under, bandages came from the tops of his sandals, with dull gray greaves inscribed with intricate seals just barely visible. Above, a black belt was looped around his waist, with the supply pouch attached on the back right. On his right thigh he held the standard kunai holster, strapped on over a layer of white bandages. His black shirt with his clan spiral was replaced with a black, high-necked, zip-up turtleneck that was a fairly tight fit. The right sleeve was cleanly cut off, leaving one arm bare, while the other went down to his wrist. On his right arm, one could see a highly intricate seal extending from the top of his shoulder to midway down his bicep. A black fingerless glove covered his hand, and extended up to just underneath the elbow. The glove itself had a metal plate on the back, while a dull gray bracer with seals similar to his greaves was strapped to his forearm. His left arm had the bracer strapped on under his sleeve, with a similar glove extending underneath the shirt to just underneath his elbow. To top off his new outfit was a custom-made coat. The coat itself was orange, since Naruto insisted that his shinobi outfit had at least some orange, with a high collar. The coat was sleeveless on the right, while the left went down to just above the elbow. A pair of dull brass button-like extensions were placed just below the collar, midway down the torso, and right above the waist. These buttons were tied together with red string somewhat loosely, to prevent the coat from falling off. The left side of the coat extended down to mid-calf on the left side, while the right only went down to just below the waist. The hem, collar, and openings were all lined with black thread, with the bottom of the left side having black flames stitched into the coat on the back, sticked in black lettering, were the kanji for Konoha's orange Hokage. A/N. If you want a reference, simply look at the picture used as the cover, except remove the right sleeve and right portion of the coat below the waist. Jiraiya shook himself out of his stupor as his apprentice landed in front of him, smirking at the dumbstruck expression on his face. What's the matter, Jiraiya-sensei? You look like you've seen a ghost. The Uzumaki put on a fake concerned expression, knowing exactly what his teacher was staring at. Jiraiya let out a low chuckle. Very funny, Gaki. The Toad Sage gave him a small, proud smile. I was just struck by how much you look like your father, he admitted, and was pleased to see the smirk on the blonde's face grow into a grin. Thanks, Jiraiya-sensei. I had a feeling that was the reason, Naruto remarked. He started when Jiraiya let out a whoop and started doing a variation of his introduction dance. Naruto stared at him, eyebrow twitching, for several moments before he had enough. What the h cough cough, what are you doing? My victory dance, Jiraiya stated proudly. Before I started training you, you were never that perceptive. Many thought you would never be anything more than an oblivious idiot, but I, the mighty and incredibly talented Jiraiya, have done the impossible. The white-haired man finished his prancing, striking his final pose in front of Naruto. The blonde's eyebrow was twitching faster, and a vein appeared in his forehead. The bundle in his left arm was squealing and giggling, which made him rein in his anger much quicker than he used to be able to. Let's just go report into Bachan, the blonde stated curtly, indicating his annoyance, before turning on his heel. Jiraiya followed after him, proud of his student for ignoring his baiting, while the sounds emitting from the bundle his student was carrying brought a smile to both their faces, with neither aware of the fact. The pair settled for a regular walking pace, trying to soak in as much of the changes to the village as they could. There weren't many: a new bakery here, a weapons shop there, a new restaurant on the corner. But they still wanted to be as familiar with the area as possible, since they were both taught that knowing the battlefield was a key advantage. Granted, they didn't expect to be attacked in their own village, but the recent invasion, and Naruto's early life, made them consider every place as being potentially hostile. As they approached the Hokage Tower, Naruto began to grow more and more nervous about how Tsunade would react to the news he was bringing, and the object he was carrying. Granted, Jiraiya had come around quick enough, but the Sannin had been present when he acquired it. How would someone who had no idea if it was a potential threat or not react? Would she order him to give it up, or would she understand that dash? Gaki, relax. Jiraiya reassured him, shaking Naruto out of his worries. Everything's going to be fine. Tsunade is a reasonable and intelligent person. She'll hear us out before coming to any conclusions. Naruto nodded, his nerves somewhat assuaged, before the Toad Sage's next words completely broke the tension. Besides, she'll probably be too drunk or hungover to try anything. Naruto raised an eyebrow, looking up slightly to see his teacher's face. It's not even 11 yet. Jiraiya simply nodded, his expression completely stoic. Both shinobi attempted to keep a straight face, before Naruto cracked. The blonde burst into laughter, with his teacher soon following. Many people, the ones not openly staring at Naruto, immediately turned their gaze to the two shinobi. Most smiled at the laughing pair, but a few glared before returning to ignoring their existences. It was telling reaction. Most of the villagers were warming up to Naruto, while a few still clung to their previous beliefs that he was the Kyuubi reincarnate. The master and apprentice duo reigned in their mirth, before continuing their slow journey towards the Hokage Tower. On the way, many of the people raised their hands in greeting and prepared to call out to the pair, before stopping suddenly. The reaction was almost uniform, eyes slowly lighting up in recognition, hands raising to wave, mouths opening to shout a greeting, eyes slowly bulging out of their owner's skull, the hand freezing, mouth dropping open in shock. Aside from a few variations, and those who simply noticed who they were looking at before scowling, this was the scene that greeted the travelers as they walked through the village. What's up with everyone? Naruto murmured, feeling awkward underneath the slack-jawed stares. I know I look different, but is it really that big of a deal? He muttered, playing with his package with his right hand while the left arm supported it. He was used to stares, having grown up hated and reviled in Konoha, but these were different. As if they weren't directed at him. Jiraiya sighed, before bopping his student on the head. You may be a lot stronger and smarter, Gaki, but you're still denser than a brick sometimes. The Sannin sighed again, ignoring the glare and mutterings of his student. Well, if you actually understood what they were all looking at, then I would be worried. The glare intensified, before Naruto finally reached the end of his fuse. Baka-sensei. What do you mean, if I actually understood? Naruto shouted, finally giving in to his anger. Jiraiya gave him a goofy smile, before disappearing in a Shunshin body flicker. Naruto's burden began to squirm and wail, and he was instantly regretting shouting at his teacher. He knew the Toad Sage was baiting him, and that it would upset his most precious thing in the world, but sometimes he could help it. He quickly stopped and cooed at the bundle in his arms, making reassuring noises as he held her closer to his chest. She snuggled deeper into his embrace, the crying tapering off into little sniffles. Naruto smiled as she looked up at him. Toussaint no mad? Manami Uzumaki asked, her blue eyes meeting those of her father. Little teardrops were still pooled in the corner of her eyes, and Naruto grinned as he wiped them away. No, your Too-san isn't mad, Naruto whispered to her softly. Gigi was just being mean, so Too-san yelled at him. I'm sorry, Nami-chan. Naruto grinned, giving his daughter a quick kiss on the forehead. The little girl giggled, before snuggling deeper into the crook of Naruto's left arm again. The blonde's grin shrunk, but the smile was still present as he stroked his daughter's long red hair. Okay, Nami-chan, let's go see your Bachan. With that, Naruto followed his teacher to the tower, praying that he arrived before his teacher did something stupid or perverted. In the waiting room, sitting behind the secretary's desk, Kato Shizen sighed in boredom. She had tons of paperwork ready for her mentor to get started on, but she definitely did not want to be the one to wake her. Senju Tsunade's drunken wake-ups weren't pleasant, and ever since she got the letter from Jiraiya stating that he and Naruto would be returning, she had gotten more and more irritable the longer she had to wait. The raven-haired Kunoichi sighed again, as she prayed for Naruto and Jiraiya to get there soon. Suddenly, a loud girlish scream and a massive crashing noise from the Hokage's office caused Shizen to rush to the door. She yanked it open, to see a fuming Tsunade with her fist extended, and a massive hole in the window and wall to the left of her desk. Shizen instantly flashed over to her with her Saban launcher at the ready, prepared to defend her mentor from any further attackers. Tsunade-sama, what's going on? Shizen shouted, trying to assess the situation. Are you hurt? Where did your attacker go? The busted Hokage simply grunted, before sitting back down with her head in her left hand. Her right reached over to the corner of her desk and grabbed a paper that had been sitting there all week, before stamping it with the seal of her office. Shizen was startled by her mentor's nonchalant demeanor, considering she was just attacked, but as she glanced at the paper she let out a breath and relaxed. So they're back? Shizen asked hopefully, praying that she was right. Damn pervert, Tsunade grunted, confirming her apprentice's suspicions. Apparently, either of the women had changed much over 3 years. Both were identical to the last time Naruto had been in the village. They were even wearing the exact same outfits. Between them and Jiraiya, one would think that everyone in the Leaf Village wore the same clothes all the time, after they stopped growing at least. Outside, Naruto shook his head in exasperation as he watched Jiraiya's form fly through the air. Baka Ero-sensei. The blonde muttered lowly, so his daughter wouldn't hear him. Every single time, he always ends up getting hit. You think he would have learned by now, and Manami-chan? Naruto asked his daughter as he walked up the side of the tower. The little redhead giggled happily, looking over her father's shoulder at the ground. As she heard her name, she turned her attention to his face and cocked her head quizzically. Gigi go bye-bye? She asked cutely, her blue eyes sparkling with curiosity. Naruto nodded his head, smiling brightly. That's right, Nami-chan. You're a very smart girl, Naruto praised, causing her to giggle and clap her hands joyfully. Naruto reached the top of the tower, peeking over the edge to make sure Tsunade wasn't looking, before flipping over the edge. Manami squealed in delight, but instantly quieted as Naruto made a shushing motion with his hand. Listening for signs of angry ranting, and hearing nothing, the Uzumaki father took a deep breath and swung around the corner, striding through the entrance Tsunade graciously provided him. With Jiraiya's body. Well, can't say I'm surprised. Naruto chuckled, instantly getting Tsunade and Shizen's attention. Jiraiya-sensei never could pass up an opportunity to grope a woman. Maybe now he'll figure out that doing it is a bad idea. The blonde grinned at the flabbergasted expressions on Tsunade and Shizen's faces, his prankster spirit relishing the surprise on their faces. And Minato? Tsunade stammered, convinced she was seeing a ghost. She was brought out of her stupor by the squeal of a happy Manami, as she enjoyed the funny faces on the people in front of her. Tsunade's eyes widened as she saw a baby version of her surrogate daughter, Kushina, in the arms of the Minato reincarnation. Kukushina? Oh Kami, I knew it! I died from alcohol poisoning! Tsunade cried dramatically. Naruto burst out laughing at Tsunade's hysterics and Shizen's statuesque shock, with Manami giggling happily at her father's laughter. No Bachan, but that's a pretty good guess. Naruto chuckled, getting a handle on his laughter. Manami was still giggling and fidgeting, but Naruto had a tight grip on her midsection. He propped her into a sitting position in his arms, with his left supporting her and his right across her stomach. Well, I'm back, Naruto chirped. Say hello to your Bachan Manami-chan, and your Shizen-abakan. Tsunade Bachan, Shizen-nichan, this is my daughter Manami. The little redhead tilted her head, looking back and forth between Tsunade and Shizen. Tsunade and Shizen, who had just realized that they were looking at Naruto and were recovering from their shock, were thrown again at this new information. The two blinked owlishly at Manami, who returned the gesture, before screaming at the top of their lungs in unison. What? The two women shouted, causing Naruto to recoil in surprise. Even though he had been somewhat expecting this kind of reaction, he still wasn't prepared for it. Tsunade was turning red with anger, and Shizen looked ready to murder. I swear to God I'm going to kill that pervert. The closest thing I have to a son, and he turns him into as big a pervert as he is. And you? Tsunade whirled around, stomping closer to Naruto. Where's the mother? I swear, if you knocked up some girl then left her, I suggest you hear the full story before you come to a conclusion, Tsunade-sama. Naruto growled out, shielding a quivering Manami from Tsunade. The blonde looked deadly serious, and both women could feel the power and anger radiating off him. For a moment, they both would have sworn they saw his eyes turn red, but then it was gone, replaced by an icy blue. Both women were shocked out of their anger by the simple fact that it was Naruto speaking to them this way, and that his eyes seemed so cold. The normally bright blue eyes that held such warmth had turned cold and hard. It was the look of a veteran shinobi, one that had power and experience. Both ladies nodded dumbly, and the cold eyes and oppressive aura radiating from Naruto disappeared. Naruto smiled at them, flipping the switch back to his normal self, before moving over to one of the chairs. Sitting down, he transferred Manami from his arms to his lap, planting her firmly on his right leg. He gently bounced her up and down, while he waited for Tsuwanda and Shizen to get back to normal. Tsunade recovered first, and moved to sit in the chair behind her desk. Shizen simply took up a position behind her mentor, eager to learn why and how Naruto had changed so much. Tsunade folded her hands in front of her face, narrowing her eyes at the blonde playing with his daughter, before she decided to go with the obvious question first. It's great to see you, Gaki, but where in the Hia glare from Naruto stopped her from finishing, and she amended her question before continuing. Where did you get a daughter? Is she yours? Is the mother still alive? Do we know who she is? Tsunade ceased her rapid-fire interrogation when Naruto held up his hand for silence. The simple gesture spoke volumes coming from him, considering how prone he was to exaggeration. Listen, Ba-chan, I would rather wait until Jiraiya-sensei gets here before I start explaining about Nami-chan. There will be less confusion and misunderstanding that way. Just know that yes, she is my biological daughter, and no, she has no mother. Naruto explained, before putting his hand back down. Tsunade's eyes narrowed again, before she nodded. She leaned back in her chair, pushing the matter of the adorable redhead to the back of her mind before moving on to the next subject. Fine. He better have answers for me, otherwise I'll make that punch look like a love tap. Now, what have you two been up to for the past 6 months? Jiraiya was sending reports up until then, but they suddenly stopped. Before that, you and Jiraiya requested that team for your trial mission, so what happened after that? Naruto shifted Manami, placing her farther back in his lap, before answering Tsunade. Well, that lack of contact has to do with Manami-chan here. We had such a hard time taking care of her and upping my training that Jiraiya-sensei had no time to write any reports. Tsunade's eyes bugged out, and Shizen looked at her quizzically. You upped your training? Gaki, I have no idea how you even survived the first year, let alone 3, of the training you went through, and you're telling me you made it harder? Are you insane? Tsunade was completely shocked, and even a tiny bit angry, that the blonde had gone through such extreme measures. Naruto smiled at her reaction while grabbing Manami, who had been trying to scale Mount Naruto, before shaking his head. Nah, we didn't make it harder, Ba-chan. Jiraiya-sensei just had me earning more stuff, like politics and general knowledge, along with childcare books and child psychology. Naruto took on a contemplative look, as if he were working on a difficult problem. Course, I was doing sage training at the same time, so I was almost too tired and busy to take care of and spend time with Manami-chan. Thank Kami for Kage Bunshin, shadow clones, nay? I spent almost 10 years reading books with the amount of Kage Bunshin I had studying. Shizen's mouth dropped, while Tsunade started banging her head on her desk. Baka 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 baka, the blonde muttered, drawing Manami's attention. Why didn't I think of that? Kage Bunshin for paperwork, it's so obvious. The blonde sighed, finally ceasing her application of her forehead to her desk, while her apprentice and her guest looked on in amusement, with the latter's daughter simply cocking her head at her Bachan's strange behavior. Alright, if you're done being a baka Tsunade-sama, cue death glare, I suggest we examine Manami-chan. You did take her to the doctors, right, Naruto-kun? Shizen asked apprehensively, hoping he was intelligent enough to have at least done that. Naruto smiled at Shizen. Of course, Nei-chan. We went to a hospital, with the reasons for said visit to be explained, and had her checked over. I have no idea what story Jiraiya-sensei made up for the doctors, but we had the full set of tests, vaccinations, and even a birth certificate made for Manami-chan. She's fine, and I intend to keep it that way. Tsunade gave him an appraising look. Looks like that mission report was accurate. You're a lot more mature and perceptive than you used to be, and you think farther ahead. You really want my job, don't you, Gaki? She asked with a chuckle. You know it, Bachan. Naruto exclaimed, lifting Manami up in the air to elicit a squeal from the baby. Thanks to my Kage Bunshin and the motivation to learn from Nami-chan, I'm just that much closer to being Hokage. The Gaki's right. Jiraiya agreed, appearing at the hole in the wall. Tsunade gave him a glare for a greeting while Shizen shook her head. The Toad Sannin, looking none the worse for wear after his ordeal, merely rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Nice to see you too, Tsunadeheim, Shizen. Jiraiya. Tsunade intoned, her voice quiet and deadly. As great as it is that Naruto's training definitely wasn't a waste of time, I can't help but notice the fact that he has a daughter. Tsunade shouted, slamming her hands on the desk. Manami instantly got scared and started crying, while Naruto and Shizen glared at her, with the former comforting his daughter. The blonde Hokage had the grace to look chastened, but her glare towards her former teammates didn't lessen in the slightest. Jiraiya instantly put on a serious look. He pulled out a piece of paper, before scribing a complex seal on it in the center of the room. He took nearly 3 minutes to complete it due to its complexity, before he placed it on the floor. The Sannin flashed through a dozen hand signs in a blur. As he reached the last, he channeled the gathered chakra into his hand and slammed it down on the seal. The sealing matrix engulfed the entire room, before fading. There, Jiraiya wiped off his hands, satisfied. Now we can talk in private. The Toad Sannin took the seat next to Naruto, looking to make sure that the seal spread over the opening his body had created, before turning to his former teammate and her assistant. Now, before Naruto and I start telling you this story, you need to promise me you won't interrupt. Tsunade folded her hands in front of her face, before nodding. Shizen followed her mentor's lead. Of course, Jiraiya-sama. But what is so important about Manami-chan that it needs to be kept secret? The medic asked, watching the curious little girl follow a bug from outside around the room with her eyes. Naruto answered her question for Jiraiya. It's simple, Shizen-ichan. The 6-month-old who is my daughter, both biologically and legally, is the soul and consciousness of the Kyuubi. Swanda and Shizen's eyes widened, before looking at the tiny girl in his lap. They looked back to his face, noted the stoic face, before turning to Jiraiya. The Toad Sage nodded, confirming Naruto's statement. But how? Tsunade asked, completely stunned. She was staring at the innocent-looking baby girl that was smiling at everything, who was supposedly the mind and soul of the most powerful Biju on the planet, and she found it impossible to connect the two. Shizen was having an equally difficult time processing this information, and accepting it as truth. Naruto sighed, wanting to avoid bringing up the memories surrounding Manami's birth, but it looked like he had no choice. Well, about 6 months ago, Jiraiya-sensei and I got separated by Itachi and Kisame, when some guy in an orange mask showed up. Flashback. Go help Itachi Kisame. The masked man stated in a deep voice. I will handle the extraction of the Kyuubi. The ex-Kyuubi swordsman shrugged, before leaping off to help his partner distract the Sannin. The man in the mask simply stared at Naruto, his single eye glowing a malicious red, before speaking to the blonde. You cannot win Kyuubi. I am far too strong for you to handle, especially in your weakened state. Surrender the Kyuubi, and I will simply leave you alive when I extract him. Resist, and I will kill you the moment I have what I want. The man said simply, his Akatsuki robe fluttering from a soft breeze. Naruto glared at the man, panting and stifling his bleeding wounds, knowing he had no chance against him. He was obviously Kisame's superior, based on the way the shark man accepted his orders without a single word of protest, and Naruto wasn't even at his level yet. He had given as good as he got during the fight with the X7 swordsman, but he was still no match for the tailless Biju. Still, he wasn't going to simply lie down and give up his friend. I won't let you have Kurama. The blonde growled. All you people want to do is use him as a weapon. Well, I won't let you, he roared, asking the fox to help him save the two of them. Kurama eagerly complied, giving his host all the power he could handle. Naruto's eyes turned red and slitted, while red chakra poured out of him. His opponent did nothing as the fox mantle formed, with 4 tails springing out. Naruto remained in stage 1, due to Kurama believing that their enemy couldn't suppress his chakra in this state. Naruto let out a roar, mirrored by Kurama, before he disappeared from sight. The man was slightly surprised, but not even remotely surprised enough for the Jinchuriki to catch him off guard. Even if no one else would ever be able to track his speed, the man's eye was powerful enough for the task. The blonde flickered into normal sight right in front of him. A purple Rasengan formed in his right hand. Rasengan! He roared, shoving the rotating ball of energy into the Akatsuki member's gut. It plowed into his stomach, before the force became too great for him to remain standing. It swept him off his feet and into a cartwheeling spin, sending him and the Rasengan flying into the trunk of the tree, where he hit with enough force to break his spine. Or that would have happened, had the demonic Rasengan not phased through the man, along with Naruto himself. The blonde's face was a study in shock as he stumbled, off balance from the lack of resistance, through the Akatsuki member, who seemed to be there, but really wasn't. His mind was stuck on the fact that he had actually went through someone, right up until the man's kick connected with the back of his head. The force was astounding, and the distraction of being sent flying caused Naruto's Rasengan to dissipate. He slammed into the trunk of the tree upside down, back first, knocking the wind out of him. In the blink of an eye the man was upon him, flipping him right side up as he grabbed onto Naruto's throat. The masked man's grip was iron, and no amount of fighting would get him free. The strength of the fox was fading fast, due to his body being unused to using it even with Kurama cooperating, and because of the nature of his seal. With the breath being choked out of him, and the last vestiges of strength leaving his body, Naruto still fought until the man looked into his eyes. Blue met red, and Naruto stopped struggling as he was put under the hypnotic gaze of the Sharingan. "You are weak. But rest in peace, and know that your death was in the name of peace," the man said in a reassuring tone, before placing his hands onto Naruto's seal. He lifted his shirt, and was about to place his hand on the seal, before a croak from Naruto stopped him. "Who are you?" he rasped out, unable to get breath into his body. The man looked at him again, and his Sharingan spun again. "Madara Uchiha," he stated, a hint of pride in his voice, before reaching back to Naruto's seal. His Sharingan flashed again, and he twisted the seal clockwise. Naruto's world became a mass of pain. He felt like he had molten lava running through his chakra network, and that his very soul was being pulled out of him. He had no idea how long this continued for, before there was a sudden surge of energy. Whatever was being pulled out of him got severed, and the rest simply closed back in. He heard an explosion, and shouts that sounded like they were miles away, before everything went black. Flashback end. "I was out of it for 2 weeks, before I woke up in a hospital," Naruto finished, looking at Jiraiya to fill in the missing parts. The Toad Sage nodded. "I examined the seal. As it turns out, the man who claimed to be Madara was pulling out the Kyuubi in reverse, the mind first, then the soul, then the chakra. When whatever cut off the extraction process did its job, it didn't retrieve what had been lost. The process was also rather explosive, and it actually injured Madara before he could use his phasing abilities." "Interesting, but that doesn't explain why she's not a bloodthirsty monster," Tsunade interjected, gesturing to Manami. The little redhead was fast asleep in Naruto's arms, and the blonde glared at her for the comment. The blonde Hokage flinched at the anger she saw in his eyes. Jiraiya spoke up before Naruto could retort, knowing the two could go back and forth all day. "I have a theory on that. My guess is that because the mind and soul were pulled out without sufficient chakra to manifest the Kyuubi's body, the little chakra it had did the next best thing. It let go of the memories that Kyuubi had, and most of its soul, and preserved what it could of both in a smaller body so it could survive. Since Naruto was the closest life form, the body took his form, just female. Now, the old Kyuubi is gone, and in its place is Manami. And I have checked, she is fully human, and has normal chakra." Tsunade thought it over, and realized her teammate was probably right. When it came to sealing, no one was better than he was, so she was inclined to trust his judgment. However, one thing was bugging her. "How do you know she's fully human, and has regular chakra? Where did you get this information?" she prodded. "I got the DNA test done at a hospital. That's how we know she's Naruto's daughter." "And remember the team I asked you to send for Naruto's evaluation?" Jiraiya asked, praying she was smart enough to see it. He was getting sick of explaining things, after doing 3 years of doing nothing but. Tsunade thought back to a year ago, and instantly made the connection. "You asked for Team Guy. So Niji examined her chakra?" she queried, before sighing in relief at Jiraiya's nod. "Well, that makes things easier. Since she's a normal human, we can treat her as such while making up a fake background for her, and we can state that Naruto adopted her." "No," Naruto cut in, surprising everyone. "I will not lie about her being adopted. Manami-chan is my flesh and blood, and I will not simply say she is adopted for convenience. If need be, I'll make up a fake story for a mother, but I won't refer to her as anything less than my biological daughter." As he finished his quiet rant, not wanting to wake the toddler, all 3 of the other occupants stared at him. Jiraiya was the first to break the silence. "Well, Gaki, it's up to you. I thought it was a good idea, but she's your daughter, and you're the one who's going to get flack for knocking up a girl." Despite his words, the Toad Sage was immensely proud of his student. He was refusing to lie, and owning up to his, imagined, mistakes like a true man. Tsunade simply nodded, albeit a little uncertainly, before addressing the next item on the Naruto's back list. "Fine, but I'll need her birth certificate and such." A poof of smoke later, and the documents were on Tsunade's desk. Tsunade continued, waiting to find out how he did that as soon as she got her point across. "And Naruto? This is going to remain an S-class secret, so you can't tell anyone Manami's true origins, and I mean anyone, without my say-so. Understood?" At his nod, Tsunade simply gestured to the documents on her desk. Naruto grinned cheekily at her, before answering her unasked question. "Storage seal on my wrist." He lifted his sleeve a little, showing the tattoo there. I also have my birth certificate, letters from Tusan and Kasan, and my inheritance. He continued, unaware of the bombshell he just dropped. Tsunade's jaw was hitting the desk, and Shizen's hands were pressed against her heart and forehead. At their expressions, Naruto and Jiraiya laughed quietly, mindful of Manami, at the looks on the two women's faces. Shizen recovered first, and she scowled at the quietly chuckling pair. You two are such idiots. I swear, one more almost heart attack, and I will castrate you both. She threatened in a low voice, and was all the more intimidating because of it. The two men nodded vigorously, with Naruto careful not to jostle Manami, as Tsunade smirked at her apprentice's threat. Very nice, Shizen. She complimented, and the brunette blushed slightly at the praise. The slug princess turned back to her guests, before continuing with her mental list. Well, I guess that means I can tell you the real reason I'm giving you these keys. She tossed a set of keys to him. These are the keys to your parents' home, along with your blood. It's been unsold for years, since no one could find the deed, another poof, and the document was in Naruto's hands, so it's yours. Also, there's the issue of your rank. Although you left as a genin, I'm certain that, based on Jiraiya's reports, that you're jonin material. But I'll need to see those skills for myself, so I set up a little spa for you. Tsunade gestured to Jiraiya, who got up and ripped the ceiling tag off the center of the room. The opening to the outside was unblocked, and a familiar figure phased into view. Naruto's face lit up as he saw the gravity-defying silver hair of his jonin sensei. Naruto walked over to the opening and stepped out quietly, making sure to keep Manami steady. Kakashi had his back to him, so he decided to have a little fun with him. He crept up on him, getting ready to snatch his precious book, when Kakashi's hand grabbed his outstretched one. Very good, Naruto. Kakashi complimented, not taking his eye off his book. I didn't even hear you until you started to reach for my book. That's definitely an improvement over standing in the middle of a field and challenging me one-on-one. Kakashi finally turned, his eye in its traditional U-shape, when he stopped dead at the sight of Manami. Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Well, at least I tried. But I'm kinda handicapped here, so go easy on me, Kakashi-sensei. The blonde grinned as his teacher who slowly stood up. Oh yeah, Kakashi-sensei, meet my daughter Manami. Kakashi's mind was in turmoil. Here was the short, goofy blonde that he once taught, standing in front of as a man. He looked exactly like his father, and he was only 1 or 2 centimeters shorter than himself. And he was apparently a father. The daughter? The jonin stuttered, his one eye wide. Naruto nodded, prepared for another scolding, since he couldn't tell the truth, but Kakashi's next actions blew that out of the water. Alright, Naruto. Only 16, and already getting some. So, where's the mother? Is she a beauty? Of course she is. You're my student, of course. I'm so proud of you, my boy. Kakashi had a river of tears coming from his eye, and he slung an arm around his bewildered student's shoulder. We'll have to get a drink to celebrate my student becoming a man, and you'll have to introduce me to this beautiful girl of yours, he proclaimed. If Naruto wasn't choking under his father figure's affection, then he would have been laughing at seeing him get so animated about something. Kakashi was always cool and laid back, except for 2 things in life, women and Aika. And Naruto obviously lucked out on the second, at least in Kakashi's eye. Kakashi Senesi I, Kenti Briati. Naruto wheezed, ignoring the chuckling in the background. Kakashi quickly realized his mistake, and removed his arm from around Naruto's shoulder. Sorry about that. He apologized, while his student attempted to regain his breath. While Naruto recovered from his near suffocation, Kakashi examined the sleeping form of Manami. Nodding as he examined her, he whispered to Naruto. If your daughter takes after her mother, then I bet she's a real beauty. He complimented, remembering another blonde who was close to him, that a red-headed wife. She's dead. Naruto stated bluntly, refusing to meet Kakashi's gaze. Childbirth was too much for her. Naruto Kakashi reached out for his student, putting a hand on his shoulder. I'm sorry. I had no idea, otherwise I wouldn't have. It's fine. The blonde said abruptly, smiling to hide his pain. Kakashi knew he was hiding it behind his smile, but he had no idea that it wasn't the pain of losing someone. It was the pain of pointlessly lying to a loved one about something very important. I'm over it, Kakashi-sensei. Besides, I have a beautiful daughter to love now, so what is there to be sad about? The jonin examined him carefully, and seeing no signs of hidden sadness or pain, simply smiled back. Alright, Naruto, if you say so. Anyway, on to business. I'll be your sparring partner, yours and Sakura's, so meet us at training ground 3 in 2 hours. I'm certain you have some things to drop off at home, so that'll give you plenty of time to get unpacked and find a babysitter for little Manami-chan. With those parting words, Kakashi held his hand up in a half-rammed seal before disappearing in a poof of smoke. The loud noise and smoke woke Manami, who started to fidget and whine right away. Tusan, I'm hungry. She whined, looking up at him with her first technique, the puppy dog eyes no justu. Not even a heartless monster could resist her adorable blue orbs, and her overprotective and loving father was extremely susceptible to it. Okay, Nami-chan, how about I take you to get your first taste of Ichiraka after we put our stuff away? Naruto asked, a happy tone in his voice. He loved Ichiraku, and he was certain his genetically identical daughter would as well. She nodded happily, picking up on his mood, while he turned back to Tsunade and Jiraiya. Is that okay? He asked, hoping he was free. Tsunade sighed. What, I don't get to spend any more time with my son and brand new granddaughter? Naruto's face instantly looked elated, while at the same time crushed with guilt. Tsunade and Shizen giggled while Jiraiya flat out laughed as Naruto veered between the two extremes. I'm kidding, Gaki. Go put your stuff away, and get Manami-chan some food. I'll watch her while you're showing me your skills so I can justify making you a jonin. Naruto's grin outshone the sun, and he waved before turning and dropping over the side, with Manami squealing with delight as they fell. Tsunade sighed happily, before turning back to her desk. She gestured Shizen out of the room, before sitting down heavily behind her desk. The Gaki's a real handful, isn't he? Jiraiya asked sympathetically, pulling out a bottle of sake and 2 drinking saucers. Tsunade simply nodded while pouring herself a cup. Well, he's even worse than he used to be, so I hope you're ready, Kaz. And Jiraiya snickered, while Tsunade simply sighed as she felt the sake burn going down. I'll bet. She agreed. He may be smarter, and far stronger, than he used to be, but deep down he's still that clueless, lovable idiot. It's nice to see someone who can change so much, while still staying the same. No matter how much he grows, he'll always be that little knucklehead. Jiraiya chuckled. Yeah, that's for sure. At least you can be sure when you list him as your successor, instead of worrying whether or not you're signing the village's death warrant. He commented, knocking back a saucer. And he's actually an excellent father, even at 16. I've never seen him happier than when he's with Manami, and his training went even faster when she gave him a real reason to be strong. Tsunade poured her 4th saucer down her throat, a small blush staining her cheeks. Well, making me a grandmother this young makes me feel old, but at least he's happy. Maybe Hinata can help him out, be the mother, and snatch up my boy that way. She pondered, her thoughts turning to one of the girls she taught briefly. Jiraiya let out a booming laugh, startling his teammate, and nearly making her spill her sake. Oh, I don't think that'll be a problem. Jiraiya laughed. The boy wouldn't even look at another girl when I tried to get him to branch out. All he kept talking about was Hinata that he's head over heels for her, and that's another reason he got so strong. So that he would be good enough for her and her family. Jiraiya chuckled, wiping some tears from his eyes, as Tsunade tried to stifle her giggles. So we have 2 people who are madly in love with one another, and they both have no idea. Tsunade asked, and giggled as Jiraiya confirmed it. Oh, that is so cute. I can't wait to get some embarrassing pictures of my baby boy with his first love. She gushed, before laughing at the irony. I can't believe I'm a grandmother while my adopted son hasn't even been on his first date yet. He'll make me gray before my time. I think it's past time. Jiraiya snickered. A fist replaced the spot where his head was, and he was sent flying through the door in the back. He was embedded deep in the wall of the waiting room as Tsunade sat at her desk and rubbed her temple. Damn pervert. She muttered, downing her 6th shot. So Nami-chan, you ready to have some of the best food in the world? Naruto asked, tickling his daughter's belly. Yay yay! She giggled happily, squirming to get away from her father's deft hands. Naruto had a firm hold on her though, so there was no escape for the little redhead. The giggling continued as the blonde walked with his source of joy down the main road, causing a repeat of the earlier reactions from those who hadn't seen the duo yet. Unfortunately, the peace definitely wasn't going to last. Ototo? Is that you? Haruno Sakura had heard the mutterings of his return, and she had finally found the blonde she called brother. She had seen a figure with blonde hair and dressed in orange while on her way down the main street, and connected the dots. Now, she was hoping the tall stranger really was her Ototo, since she couldn't see his face. Naruto froze, cursing himself for forgetting about his beloved Nei-chan. Manami instantly sensed her father's distress, and she stopped squirming. Tusan? Tusan need potty? She asked, mistaking his reaction for one of her common problems. Even if she couldn't use it, she still knew what the potty was, and what it entailed. Not bad for a 6-month-old, ne? Tusan? Sorry, sir, I thought you were someone. Sakura began to apologize, only for her mouth to hit the floor as Naruto turned around. Hey Nei-chan, it's great to see you again, Naruto said sheepishly, rubbing the back of his head. Manami started squirming again, and Naruto instantly moved his hand back to steady her. Yeah, it's me. Meet your Mei, Manami-chan. Nami-chan, say hello to your Sakura-abakin. Naruto's voice had some forced cheerfulness, while he was sweating about explaining his predicament on the inside. Manami squealed and held her hands out to Sakura, screaming Oba, Oba. She had picked up on some of the honorifics when Naruto would tell her about her Sakura-Abakan or Tsunade-Bachan. Sakura just sat there, slack-jawed and wide-eyed, before doing the only thing she could when confronted with the tall, mature-looking Naruto with a baby girl he called her niece. She fainted. Chapter 3, Explanations. Last time on a nine-tailed Uzumaki. Manami squealed and held her hands out to Sakura, screaming Oba, Oba. She had picked up on some of the honorifics when Naruto would tell her about her Sakura-Abakan or Tsunade-Bachan. Sakura just sat there, slack-jawed and wide-eyed, before doing the only thing she could when confronted with the tall, mature-looking Naruto with a baby girl he called her niece. She fainted. "Nei-chan!" Naruto cried out, darting towards her falling form, Manami holding onto the one arm cradling her for dear life. Several people were looking at the confrontation, interested in the gossip that might spring from this incident. This included several shinobi, especially 3 cute little genin that had followed Sakura. However, all of their jaws dropped as the blonde simply disappeared in a flash of orange and yellow, reappearing right next to Sakura in the blink of an eye. Naruto gently held Sakura's petite body around the waist, supporting her with nearly no effort. He let out a sigh of relief that he had managed to prevent his Nei-chan from hitting the ground. His next instinct was to make sure his daughter was okay, but he nearly dropped Sakura when he saw his little redhead's hair sticking straight out from behind her head, a side effect of his mad rush to catch Sakura. Manami turned her wide blue eyes to her Tsusan as she heard his snickering, but that was the final straw for Naruto. He burst out into laughter, tears nearly rolling down his face, at his precious little girl's expression. "Sorry, Nami-chan, but I couldn't just let your Sakura-Abakan hurt her head now, could I?" Naruto managed to get out, gently lowering aforementioned girl gently on the ground. Naruto dropped to his knees, sitting in a size opposed ion. The pinkette's head rested in Naruto's lap, and he carefully smoothed out his daughter's hair, putting it back to normal. The little redhead simply nodded before squirming closer into Naruto's hand, enjoying his ministrations. The nearby onlookers picked their jaws up off the ground at the raw speed and subsequent tender display and went about their business. However, the 3 genin had other plans, and weren't going to let this occurrence go without an explanation. "Naruto Naiken!" 3 voices called out. The blonde whipped his head up in surprise at the voices, and what they referred to him as, since there were only 3 people who ever called him that. "Konohamaru, Moegi, Udan!" He called to them in joy. Naruto may have been a bit worried about Sakura, but his interactions with a certain lavender-haired girl reassured him that she would be fine. After all, if she could faint repeatedly around him, then Sakura would be fine if it just happened once. Besides, these were some of his precious people, the first 3 to ever look at him as a role model. "It's great to see you guys again." The 3 genin grinned brightly and scrambled closer to their idol. They scurried around to his front, but upon seeing a 6-month-old girl cradled in his arms, Udan and Konohamaru's jaws dropped. Unlike her male counterparts, Moegi simply squealed in delight at the sight of the cute baby, and was cooing in her face and pinching her cheeks so fast Naruto, Konohamaru and Udan could have sworn she used the Hiraishin, Flying Thunder God. "Oh my gosh, Naruto Naiken! Your baby is so cute! Look at her, with these adorable cheeks and blue eyes. And her hair is simply beautiful. What's her name, Naruto Naiken?" Moegi gushed over the baby, as all young girls do. "A/N, don't lie girls, we all know you do." Naruto grinned at her, used to this type of reaction after 6 months of dealing with it. "Moegi, this is Manami-chan. Konohamaru, Udan, come say hi to her." He beckoned the 2 gob-smacked males over, which jerked them out of their frozen states. "Naruto Naiken, you have a baby?" Konohamaru shouted, instantly drawing the attention of every person in a mile radius. Moegi turned and glared at her friend, while Udan and Naruto simply winced from the volume. "Konohamaru-chan, stop yelling. You'll upset Naiken's baby," Moegi hissed. "You really should keep it down, Konohamaru." Udan sniffed, pushing his glasses up his nose. "Of course, I think we are all surprised that Naruto Naiken has a baby, a daughter if her name is any indication," the glasses-wearing genin commented, tilting his head in curiosity. "But Naiken, when did you get a baby? Is she yours? And if so, who is the mother?" Naruto's mood instantly changed. The grin dropped from his face, and his eyes took a sadness that was so deep and oppressive that Udan instantly regretted the question. Konohamaru and Moegi could easily feel the sorrow emanating from him, as could many of the passing villagers. Manami could feel it as well, and tears welled up in her eyes as she began to sniffle. "I don't really want to talk about it, guys," Naruto replied, the sorrowful aura dispelling. He instantly held Manami tighter, gently bouncing her to get rid of her tears. "All you guys need to know is that yes, she is my biological daughter, and her mother is no longer with us." Udan opened his mouth to apologize, but Naruto cut him off with a blinding grin. You don't need to apologize, Udan. You had no way of knowing, and I'm over it now. I have my moments, but Manami-chan is a blessing, and the light of my life. I don't have time to dwell on the past with her around. Udan still looked remorseful, but nodded. Moegi had tears in the corners of her eyes, but refrained from crying for Manami's sake. Konohamaru took on a serious expression, and he pressed forward, determined to bring the cheerful Naruto they knew back. Not that he really needed it, based off his expression. Right, boss? Konohamaru shouted enthusiastically. I bet your daughter is going to be an awesome kunoichi one day, and her Kasen must have been a total babe. And speaking of babes, the young Sarutobi placed his hands in a familiar seal, and a puff of smoke erupted over the area. Naruto's eyes widened as he recognized the seal, and he instantly turned around, shielding Manami from the view and nearly dropping Sakura's head. Oryoku no Jutsu, sexy jutsu. The smoke cleared, revealing the epitome of a female. A nude, busted brunette with a perfect hourglass body was standing in the middle of the road, her body bent over in a seductive pose. Is this acceptable, boss? She asked in a breathy, sultry tone. The brunette winked, and every male within sight of her instantly collapsed with a massive nosebleed. However, every female was seething bloodlust at the shameful display, especially Moegi. Naruto, however, didn't even blush at Konohamaru's display. Instead, his blue eyes began to shine an icy blue, and he growled at the transformed boy over his shoulder, having turned to shield Manami from viewing the youngest Sarutobi. The rumbling began deep in his chest, reverberating throughout his torso, causing a deep, animalistic growl to echo through the street. Every person who heard it froze in fear. Even the righteous fury of the nearby females paled in comparison to the father's rage. However, before Naruto could even speak, there was a flicker of movement in the shadows of a nearby alley. A tall figure, near or even above Naruto's height, clothed in black and red, swiftly moved behind the transformed genin. Konohamaru found himself trapped with both arms pinned behind his back, the henge, transformation, having dispelled from the blindingly fast assault. The genin trembled at the bloodlust being directed at him from the figure behind him, and slowly looked over his shoulder to see who had him dead to rights, a kunai at his neck. The sight that greeted the brunette was a complete shock, and judging from the gasps from the crowd and his own teammates, it was to them as well. Standing behind him was a carbon copy of Naruto, right down to the last detail, except for two major differences. The first being his hair and eye pigments, being brown and green respectively, and the lack of whisker marks on the person's face. Why would show such a shameful technique to Naruto-sama and Manami-sama? The man growled in a voice eerily similar to Naruto's, sending shivers down Konohamaru's spine. The genin said nothing, too afraid of offending the person to speak. The man narrowed his eyes, their emerald depths flashing dangerously. Nothing to say? Very well. The man released the Sarutobi, making everyone except Naruto breathe a sigh of relief, before he blurred into motion. In one smooth movement, the man reached to his hip, where a katana and wakizashi were strapped, and drew the longer blade. He held it to Konohamaru's neck, making everyone gasp in surprise. To every onlooker under the rank of jonin, the stranger had simply appeared in front of one of the last Sarutobis with a black blade in his hand, ready to relieve the genin of his head. The shinobi in the crowd sprang into action, several rushing the man while others began the hand signs to their individual jutsu, before a voice eerily similar to the attacker's rang out. Stop, Yaiba! Naruto shouted. It was just a prank, no harm was done to either myself or Manami. The blonde was panicking, hoping that Yaiba would listen to him, and he could avoid having one of his precious people taken from him, and this life by one of his other precious people. The man instantly halted, his pitch-black blade mere centimeters from Konohamaru's neck. He gave the young Sarutobi one last glare, the genin nearly soiling himself at the look in his attacker's eyes, before the now-named Yaiba stepped back and sheathed his katana. The onlookers breathed a sigh of relief, happy to avoid bloodshed, before the shinobi moved in to take custody of the enemy. Wait! Naruto called softly as they closed in on the man. The shinobi halted, turning to look at Naruto as the blonde's voice rang out. Leave him to me. He's under my jurisdiction, and as such it is up to me to decide his punishment. The shinobi hesitated for a split second, not wanting to take chances with a strange man who was apparently very skilled, before nodding their agreement. The ones trying to surround him moved away, and most of the crowd dispersed at a firm look from the blonde nin. Throughout all of this, Yaiba had yet to move from his spot across from Konohamaru. Naruto heaved a sigh of relief at having diverted this potential disaster. He had enough problems with the village as it was, he didn't need his bodyguard's actions to cause an incident. To avoid it, he quickly turned to explain the man to the three genin, but his plan was derailed by the groaning of the girl whose head lay in his lap. Jade eyes fluttered open, finding themselves staring into two pairs of deep sapphire eyes, one pair alight with concern, the other full of childish curiosity. She quickly bolted upright out of Naruto's lap, her mind racing as she tried to connect the dots in her head. The Uzumaki pair watched as the young medic nin stood quickly, before robotically swiveling around to stare at them. Naruto rose from his kneeling position in one graceful movement, Sakura noting the grace that he carried himself with, before looking down to meet her eyes. Sakura's mind had worked at a furious pace, which was pretty damn fast considering how intelligent she was. The pink-haired nin processed all the information she had, made some educated guesses, reached the conclusion that her brother had a child, before looking Naruto directly in the eyes and asking just one question. "Do you love her?" Naruto stared at her, his face betraying nothing, but inwardly he winced. Despite his agreement to keep his daughter's origins a secret, he still had some misgivings about lying to his surrogate family. However, he knew that for his daughter's safety, he had to keep her a secret from those who would wish to control her, and through her, him. So he answered her question truthfully. "Yes, with all my heart." Sakura breathed a sigh of relief, her shoulders sagging as if a burden had been lifted off them. She had narrowed the presence of a child in Naruto's life down to 3 possibilities. He had an accidental child with someone he didn't love due to Jiraiya corrupting him. He found the child and decided to treat her as his own. Or he had Manami with someone he had and fallen in love with. Then Sakura decided that these things didn't matter, and the only thing that did was whether he loved his daughter, biological or not. Apparently, the pinkette needn't have worried. "So Ototo." Sakura grinned brightly, appearing to be the picture of happiness. However, Naruto saw the hint of danger in that too sweet smile and started to sweat. "Do I have to castrate Jiraiya-sama for corrupting you, or should I save my rusty kunai for the hussy who stole my innocent little Ototo's virginity?" Her bright green eyes narrowed dangerously, before continuing. "Or should it be used on you?" Naruto shuddered, while Manami looked up at him with curious eyes. "No, Nei-chan, you got it all wrong." Naruto spoke frantically, waving his left hand rapidly in a placating gesture, while the other cradled his human Shia-hem daughter closer to him. "I loved the woman I had Manami with. No corruption was involved." He laughed nervously, hoping that he could escape getting his manhood taken. Slowly and painfully. "Good," Sakura declared, poking Naruto in the chest. "Because if I find out otherwise, I'll show you exactly how Tsunade Shusho's enhanced strength works, and what it can do to internal organs." She smiled cutely, tilting her head to the side, her expression and sugary sweet voice making the words coming out of her mouth all the more terrifying. Naruto nodded frantically, sweat dripping down his face now. If there was one thing he feared on this earth, it was his Nei-chan and her freakishly strong hits. Eager to change the subject, and to address an issue that was still present, he turned to where Yaiba and Konohamaru were squared off. His eyes bugged out of his head when he saw the Konohamaru core. And Yaiba sitting on the ground in a circle, playing poker with one another. Judging by Yaiba's twitching expression, Moegi's pout, and Udan's sniffles, Konohamaru was cleaning house. This was supported by aforementioned boy's triumphant expression, and the large pile of Ryo in front of him. "What the he?" Naruto began, before coughing and taking a moment to calm himself. Once he had regained his composure, to avoid swearing around his daughter, he continued more calmly. "What is going on, Yaiba? Why are you playing poker with them?" The man instantly stood to attention, whirling around to bow to Naruto. "My deepest apologies, Naruto-sama, but Konohamaru-san challenged me to a match in order to settle our differences. He bested me with one hand, then we continued to play with Moegi-san and Udan-san joining in." The man straightened up after offering his explanation, ignoring Naruto's irritated expression, before turning his attention to Sakura. "Are you Sakura Haruno?" At her nod, he bowed to her. "It is an honor to meet you, Haruno-sama. Naruto-sama has told me much about you." "It is nice to meet you too. I'm sorry, I don't believe I ever got your name." Sakura was puzzled as to why this person was calling her Ototo-sama, as well as her, but she knew that he must be familiar with Naruto. And just Sakura is fine. "Very well, Sakura-sama." Yaiba bowed deeply again, holding it as he spoke. "I am Yaiba, the Uzushio no Hasho. I serve and protect Naruto-sama, and by extension Manami-sama, and any they deem worthy of my services. As he is the heir to the Uzumaki name, the wielder of the Uzushio no Ken, and one of the last Uzumaki, I am sworn to protect him with my life." The man finished, straightening up before turning to Naruto. "A/N, this roughly translates as the Sentinel of Whirlpool. If this is wrong, please tell me. I am using Google Translate, people. Also, his name means blade, for reasons that I hope are obvious. Also, the Uzushio no Ken means Sword of Whirlpool, and the name was taken from Jibri's The Uzumaki Tales, Return of the Whirlpool. Great story, and long as well. All credit for the name of the sword goes to him. And no, the sword has not been shown yet. That will come next chapter." Naruto observed the man who had become his bodyguard, internally marveling at how devoted he was to Manami and himself. Outwardly, Yaiba appeared to be a perfect copy of himself, from his hairstyle to his build. The only exceptions were their hair and eye color, and the fact that Yaiba lacked whisker marks. Inwardly, however, they were two vastly different people, and their manner of dress showed it. While Naruto had disposed of orange for the most part, he still kept it as part of his outfit due to a combination of nostalgia and a simple liking of the color. Yaiba had no such qualms, and dressed in a manner befitting his station and occupation. Yaiba wore a black jumpsuit with two thick, deep red stripes running down his shoulders and arms, along with his legs. Closer inspection showed that they ran along the inside of his arms as well, continuing down the sides of his chest and joining the ones running down his legs. Black shinobi sandaled boots covered his feet, with the edges of the jumpsuit tucked into the tops. Gloves with metal plates colored the same blood red as the stripes were attached to the jumpsuit. In addition to the ones on the backs of the gloves, there were several small ones protecting his fingers, segmented so that they allowed full range of motion and padded so he did not injure himself when striking something. The same color metal made up a pair of bracers and greaves, with both having the symbol of Uzumaki carved into the exact middles. A pair of shoulder pads styled after the shinobi armor of old adorned his upper body, along with a segmented breastplate in the same style, also with the Uzumaki symbol carved in it, this time right over the heart. A pair on segmented plate facing outward settled on his hips, attached to a black belt, and they covered his crotch and the sides on his legs, and extended slightly upwards to protect some of his hips without restricting movement. A pair of metal plates covered the fronts of his thighs, completing the armor set. The whole package looked like a more heavily armored Senju Hashirama, the Shodai Hokage. Attached to Yaiba's hip, one on his left, the other on his right, were a pair of swords. They were black as night, sheath, hilt, guard, and as Konohamaru could attest to, blade. The left was a katana with a blade of approximately 75 centimeters in length, 29 inches, with a hilt of nearly 30 centimeters, 12 inches. The wakizashi was significantly shorter, about 35 centimeters, 14 inches, while the hilt was the same length as the katana. Individually, the swords were impressive, but both of them combined with the intimidating man wielding them, they turned into an absolutely lethal combo. Naruto observed Sakura next, after the split second it took him to take in Yaiba. His Neichan had grown, standing at 161 centimeters, taller than she used to be but still over a head shorter than him. Her short pink hair, which she kept in the same style she had before she left, barely reached his shoulder. Her hitai was now mounted on a red headband that complemented her hair, and was still worn in the same manner as before Naruto left. Sakura had filled out a little more, but she still retained her petite figure. Deep in the back of Naruto's mind, the perverted nature he had unconsciously picked up from his surrogate father Kakashi and Sensei Jiraiya notified him that her breasts were a nice B-cup, and her ass was defined and perky. Naruto quickly and ruthlessly smashed it down, reminding himself that this was his Neichan and that he was not a pervert, before turning his examination to her clothes. She wore a red vest with the Haruno circles on the back in white, over a pair of tight black spandex that stopped above the knee. Over her shorts she wore a light pink apron skirt that matched the pair of elbow warmers she had on. Finishing her outfit was a pair of black kunoichi knee boots and a pair of black gloves. Naruto-sama, I advise you that you inform Sakura-sama and Konohamaru-san, Moegi-san, and Udon-san about your journey once we have reached Ichiraku Ramen. The Hasho no Yuzushio stated, gesturing to the squirming Manami. Manami-sama appears to be getting irate because of her hunger, and I must insist that you avoid a repeat of the last incident where Manami-sama went without food. Naruto paled, snapping out of his thoughts over the changes to his Neichan and guardian, before finally paying attention to his daughter. What he saw chilled him to the bone. Manami was squirming, and her eyes were starting to tear up. In addition, there was a hint of childish fury in her eyes, and Naruto could tell she was building up steam for a temper tantrum the likes of which Konoha had never seen. Oh crud! Naruto exclaimed, his expression turning from fear of the oncoming storm to panic as he realized there was still time, but he needed to act quickly. Yaiba, initiate Plan Delta. Grab Konohamaru, Moegi, and Udon and go! The blonde ordered, and his faithful follower reacted instantly. The note of command in the Uzumaki's voice was unmistakable, one he only used on the battlefield, and sparked a deeply ingrained reaction in Yaiba. The Konohamaru Corps. And Sakura had no time to react as the Uzumaki and his protector sprang into action. In less than a second, Naruto had Sakura slung over his shoulder like a sack of flour, while Yaiba had Konohamaru and Udon stacked on his right, with Moegi on his left. The four non-jonin shinobi were still reeling from the speed Naruto and Yaiba displayed when the blonde issued his next set of orders. Move out, Yaiba! To Ichiraku, full speed! He shouted, before all 6 nin, and 1 baby, disappeared from the street. Every single person nearby, which included several jonin that had come to investigate the disturbance the 7 had caused, along with a squad of ANBU Black Ops, were stunned as they saw 2 of their own display a speed which, in many cases, reminded them of Minato Namikaze, the Yondaime Hokage and renowned Yellow Flash. Although, their beloved Yondaime's bursts of speed were never accompanied by a shrill voice shouting Naruto. 6 people appeared in front of the Ichiraka ramen stand, along with a baby girl, in the blink of an eye, startling several passing civilians and shinobi. However, after most of them identified the newly returned number 1 knucklehead ninja, they simply resumed their daily business. Naruto rushed into the stand, hastily placing Sakura on a stool at the bar. After making sure she would not vomit or fall over, he turned his attention to the stunned father-daughter duo behind the counter. "I am Chan, Tsuchiji-san, it's great to see you, but I need 1 bowl of the kids' ramen stat," the blonde shouted, frantically bouncing Manami in his arms to keep her from getting any more upset. The 2 ramen servers simply froze in shock, having recognized their favorite blonde. Naruto was about to shout at them, before a gurgling noise from the little bundle of joy in his arms nearly stopped his heart. "I suggest you do what Naruto-sama requests Tsuchi-san, I am-san," Yaiba stated nervously, a bead of sweat running down the side of his face. Seated next to him, with their faces resting on the table as they tried to regain their bearing and equilibrium, was the Konoha core. Manami-sama can be quite difficult when she is hungry. Jarred into action by the strange, at least to them, man's words, the 2 Ikarakas started mechanically preparing the request ramen, glancing at Naruto and Yaiba the entire time. During the process, Naruto and Yaiba were growing increasingly nervous, and with good reason. Manami was growing increasingly irritated. The combination of her empty stomach and her father's rush to fill it had nearly broken to floodgates on her childish temper. However, her father's soothing hand running through her hair combined with his rocking motions were the only things keeping her from throwing the fit she desperately wanted to unleash. "Naruto, what the heck is going on? It's great to see you, but why are you in such a rush to get this kid some ramen?" Tsuchi asked, having finally regained the use of his vocal cords. "And who is your friend?" "Less talking, more ramen Jizan. The demon is about to be unleashed, and only food can divert this disaster," Naruto hissed, his nerves near their breaking point. Luckily, the old ramen chef finished quickly and placed the bowl in front of the wound-up father, both Tsuchi and his daughter still complete lost. Naruto breathed a sigh of relief as he quickly scooped up a spoonful of chopped noodles and lukewarm broth. He quickly held the spoon up to Manami's mouth, and everyone present, excluding Naruto and Yaiba, watched in awe as the ramen disappeared of the spoon in a flash of red. Manami gurgled, her temper tantrum subsiding after her hunger started to become appeased. "2-san, more!" she demanded, and Naruto hurriedly acquiesced. "Naruto, what the heck was that?" Sakura demanded, still pissed that he had dragged her away so quickly. "Why was it so important to get here that you had to manhandle me like that?" Naruto turned his head to her, a sheepish smile on his face as he continued feeding the bottomless pit in his arms. "Sorry, Nei-chan, but Nami-chan get really mad if she doesn't get her food. You really don't want to see her when she throws a temper tantrum." Naruto shuddered, remembering the last time he had failed to avert his daughter's disastrous anger. "Indeed." Yaiba nodded on Sakura's left, reinforcing Naruto's statement. "Manami-sama has quite the temper. You would do well to avoid causing any incidents that may trigger her wrath, Sakura-sama, and you 3 as well." The brunette turned to Konohamaru and company. Sakura nodded, still a bit skeptical, but decided to take their word for it. She still had a lot of questions, and needed answers from Naruto and his protector. "Well, now that a disaster has been averted, I've got some questions for you, Naruto." "And we do as well," Tsuchi chorused, with Ayame nodding her head to back up her father. "What is going on, Naruto, and whose baby is this?" The old ramen chef was absolutely flabbergasted when Naruto informed them that Manami was his daughter. He fell over in a dead faint, with his daughter following him soon after. The 2 members of Team 7 chuckled at their reaction, Sakura more from embarrassment than amusement. "Geez, if this happens every time I tell someone about Nami-chan, then I'm going to need some pillows to prevent head injuries," Naruto chuckled. Yaiba cracked a small smile, and the Konohamaru Corps started laughing their heads off. "Just wait until they hear about your story, eh, Yaiba?" Yaiba nodded in agreement when addressed, imagining the reactions his story would get. "Indeed, the reactions to my story have been quite amusing over the years. Most people refuse to believe me at first, but they are always quite funny when my charges confirm it." Naruto grinned at the prospect, while the other shinobi were completely lost. Before Sakura could ask what they meant, a groan from Tsuchi cut her off. "Oh my head," the elderly man grumbled, grabbing the counter to steady himself as he returned to his feet. "I could have sworn that Naruto was back, and he told me that he had a kid," he muttered, completely unaware of his amused audience. I kinda did, Jizan," Naruto pointed out, causing the ramen chef to turn to him with bug eyes. When Tsuchi shook his head in denial, Naruto held up the sated Manami a little higher. "This my daughter, Manami-chan." Tsuchi's eyes got even wider, before his face turned from surprise to bewilderment. "But how? When?" Naruto rolled his eyes. Well, you see, Jizan, when a man and woman love each other very much. Not what I meant, Naruto. The ramen chef shouted, irked by the blonde's nonchalance. Sakura lightly slapped him on the back of his head and glared at him, while the three genin fell off their chairs in laughter. Before Tsuchi could roar at Naruto again, Ayam groaned from her own spot on the floor. The ramen chef spun around to make sure his daughter was all right. Hey, sorry, Nei-chan. The blonde apologized, shifting Manami over his shoulder and starting to burp her. I couldn't resist. Don't joke about stuff like this, Naruto. This is serious stuff, and everyone is going to want answers. The pinkette scolded. Mentally, she noted that she could count herself as one of those people. When Tsuchi and Ayam had settled down, the latter having a much more violent reaction to Naruto's parenthood, they quickly busied themselves with preparing ramen for everyone. Naruto had 3 bowls, Yaiba had 1, and the rest simply sat and waited. After closing the shutter to cut off the stand from the street, everyone turned to Naruto with expectant looks. Ah, good stuff as always, Jizan. You and Ayam-chan have gotten even better. The blonde complimented, patting his stomach with one hand while cradling the sleeping Manami to him with the other. Alright, Yaiba, if you would please? Hi, Naruto-sama. The brunette nodded, standing from his stool. A quick rummaging through his pack, and the sentinel produced a scroll, brush, and some ink. He quickly opened the scroll and set to work, drawing a complex seal at an extremely fast pace. All except Naruto were stunned by the beauty and grace of the man's writing as he formed the seal. Excuse me, Yaiba-san? What are you? Sakura began, but was cut off when Yaiba finished the seal with a flourish. He quickly placed the seal on the counter, before channeling chakra to his palm and slamming it on the middle of the seal. Uzumaki Fuinjutsu, Yuga Misho Hiki Siren. Uzumaki Sealing Art, Silencing Distortion Barrier. A spider web of kanji shot out of the scroll, moving along the counter until they reached the walls, before spreading along them as well. Within a second, the entirety of Ichiraku's was covered with kanji, before they gradually faded away. What was that? Konohamaru and Tsuchi shouted, the former out of awe and the latter out of concern for his business. A seal that prevents eavesdropping, or spying. It blocks all sound, and distorts any chakra sensing abilities, including dojutsu. Naruto explained as Yaiba repacked his supplies. I don't want anyone but those I trust to hear about Manami or Yaiba's origins. Everyone nodded, Tsuchi a little warily, at the explanation. Naruto took a deep breath, preparing himself for everyone's reactions, before beginning his story. By the end of Naruto's explanation of Manami's cover story, all of the males were holding back tears. The women had no such problems, and all 3 of the females rushed to embrace Naruto. The blonde nearly panicked as they rushed him, and quickly made sure Manami wouldn't get crushed by the embraces he was sure were coming. With Sakura, Moegi, and Ayam wrapped around him, Naruto couldn't help feeling enormous guilt. He hated lying, especially to his surrogate/adopted sister, but he had no choice. People weren't ready to know his daughter's true origins. Even if they were, announcing that Manami was technically born from the chakra of the Kyuubi would immediately put her in danger, thanks to the Akatsuki and their hunt for the Jinchuriki. So Naruto lied, not because of his orders from Tsunade, but because he would never endanger his family. With her birth, Manami became the center of his world, and he would do everything in his power to keep her safe, comfortable, and happy. We're so sorry you had to go through that, Naruto. Sakura sniffed. You and Akane must have really loved each other, and I can tell you love little Manami, even if she wasn't planned. Sakura smiled at the last part, as did Ayam and, unknown to Naruto, Moegi. The blonde put on a wry grin. Yeah, at first I had no idea what to do with Nami-chan, but some advice from Jiraiya-sensei and a lot of Kage Bunshin study hours made sure I was ready to be a dad. That part, at least, he could say was true. He had no idea what to do with a completely unexpected child, but after some calming talks with Jiraiya and Yaiba, and a week caring for Manami while they traveled to civilization, and Naruto became perfect father material. You have no idea how many hours I spent reading through every childcare book I could get my hands on. Sakura giggled as a thought crossed her mind. You reading? Come on, Naruto, stop with the jokes already. Naruto pouted, and everyone else chuckled, excluding Yaiba, whose mouth simply twitched upward at the corner. The females released Naruto, before Ayam noticed that he had forgotten to inform them about his other tag-along. Wait, Naruto-kun, you never told us about finding Yaiba, or how you convinced him to come back to Konohagakure with you. Ayam looked at the newcomer with curiosity, and all of the others did as well. Yaiba, propped against the wall of the stand, swiveled his gaze to meet Naruto's. At a subtle nod from his master, the Hasho no Yuzushio redirected his attention to the rest of the stand's occupants. He took a deep breath, ordering his thoughts and preparing himself for the storm of questions that would follow his tale, before he began speaking. You are right, Ayam-san, Naruto-sama did leave me out of his tale, although he had a good reason for doing so. As I told Sakura-sama, Moegi-san, Konohamaru-san, and Udan-san, I am the Uzushio no Hasho. My job, and the fact that I have dedicated my life to guarding Naruto-sama and his family, are not a secret. Neither is the fact that Naruto-sama wields the Uzushio no Ken, though he has yet to reveal his blade to any of you. They all glanced at Naruto, who gave them a look that said later, before the focus was brought back to Yaiba. However, to understand my origins, you must first understand the Uzumaki clan. Yaiba continued, surprising the younger members of the group with that information, as anyone younger than 18 in Konoha had no knowledge of the Uzumaki clan. Naruto-sama informed me that Konoha has disrespected Yuzu's memory by removing them from the history books, so I will quickly enlighten you all. The brunette's eyes flashed dangerously for a moment as he recounted that fact, before his eyes returned to normal and he continued his narrative. The Uzumaki were one of the oldest ninja clans, barely younger than the Uchiha and Senju. They were formed when Uzumaki Sosuke founded the clan alongside his own country, Yuzu no Kuni. As generations passed, the Uzumaki made a name for themselves both on the battlefield and off it. On the battlefield, the Uzumaki were known for their deadly kenjutsu and taijutsu, their enormous stamina and chakra capacity, and their absolute mastery over the art of fuinjutsu. They possessed an incredible kakai genkai, allowing them to heal cuts in mere minutes, and bones in hours. Off of the battlefield, they were known for their limitless kindness, vast wealth, vibrant red hair, extreme longevity, and above all, their fearsome tempers. With such a powerful clan leading Yuzu, the nation quickly became prosperous. They were also the first nation to form their own shinobi village, Yuzushiogakure, which eventually led to the founding of all the other shinobi villages. The model for Uzushio was even used for Konoha, with the Uzumaki themselves assisting the Senju and Uchiha with the creation of this village, due to their close ties with the Senju. The clans were close, like family. These feats and reputation allowed Uzushio and the Uzumaki to prosper. Yaiba's expression darkened as he recalled the fate of the Uzumaki clan. However, the reputation of the Uzumaki's power soon came back to haunt them. A coalition made up of Kumo, Iwa, and Kiri made it their mission to destroy the Uzumaki clan. Out of fear of their power, a total of 25,000 shinobi marched on Yuzu, intent on nothing less than the complete destruction of the Uzumaki clan. They attacked Yuzu without warning, laying siege to the great walls of Yuzu. Uzushio had no time to mount a defense, and the invaders quickly gained the upper hand, mercilessly killing shinobi and civilian alike. Yaiba's expression turned from dark to downright vicious as he continued. However, the invading forces underestimated the lengths an Uzumaki will go to for the ones they consider precious. The Uzumaki clan finally appeared on the battlefield, and began tearing through the enemy. Iwa, Kumo, Kiri, it did not matter, they were helpless before the might of the Uzumaki clan. They pushed back the invaders, allowing the civilians and their own non-combatants time to escape. Yaiba's expression grew sad as he continued though, the pride in his voice still present, but very subdued. Even the Uzumaki aren't invincible though. The fighting lasted for days, with the Uzumaki being slowly whittled down to a fraction of their former power. With each clan member's death, they took over a dozen shinobi with them. But eventually the clan of 500 was reduced to a mere 27 warriors, their fallen having taken over 15,000 enemy shinobi with them. The remaining members stood atop their great walls, battered and exhausted, but not broken. As the remnants of the invading force prepared to finish off the Uzumaki once and for all, the clan head, Uzumaki Morio, ordered his fellow clan members to make their final stand. Using a seal created by Uzumaki Sosuke himself, the remaining survivors poured the rest of their life force into one massive explosion. Due to their longevity, the explosion that followed wiped out nearly the entire remaining army, including the Nidaime Reikage. The few remaining survivors, their army and spirit broken, dragged themselves back to their villages. They spoke of red-haired demons, cutting bloody swaths through their enemies at blinding speeds, destroying all in their path with flashes of steel. As Yaiba completed his tale, there was not a single sound from the shocked and speechless people occupying the ramen stall. Naruto had his head lowered, his eyes hidden in the shadow of his brow as he mourned the loss of the clan he never knew. The destruction of the Uzumaki clan sparked the Second Shinobi World War. Konoha, furious over the genocide of their closest ally and friend, declared war on Iwa, Kumo, and Kiri, with Suna at their backs. The coalition, weakened by the loss of so many troops, had no hope of winning the war from the very start. Though they put up a good fight, eventually Suna and Konoha emerged victorious. But their victory did not bring back the Uzumaki clan, nor Uzushio. To this day, the ruins of Uzushiogakure still stand, awaiting the return of the Uzumakis. Yaiba finished, letting out a long breath. The tale had taken a lot out of him, and everyone could see it. But Sakura began, hesitant to pry but needing answers. You still haven't told us anything about you. And how do you know so much about the final battle anyway? Yaiba looked at her, surprised, before face-palming himself. Forgive me, Sakura-sama, I did not mean to ramble. Well, it's not like you do it often. Naruto chuckled. Aside from when you were teaching me, and telling me about my clan, I could barely get more than 10 words out of you. The blonde had stood up during Yaiba's narration, and was gently bouncing a sleeping Manami in his arms as he swayed gently back and forth. Yaiba cracked a small smile. That is true, Naruto-sama. I simply don't have much to say. He turned his attention back to Sakura. The answer to your question is simple, Sakura-sama. Naruto-sama, very early in his trip with Jiraiya-sama, journeyed to Uzushio to recover some of his heritage from the Uzushio archives. Hidden underground, the Uzushio archives were the only structure to survive the Uzumaki's final stand. Inside, hidden behind a blood seal that will only open for an Uzumaki, were stores of Uzushio's treasures, along with copies of every single ninjutsu, taitsu form, kenjutsu form, and seal ever developed or used by the Uzumaki clan. However, only members descended directly from the head family can access everything. Naruto-sama happens to be the son of Uzumaki Kushina, the daughter of Uzumaki Morio, the last Uzumaki clan head. That's amazing, Niken. Konohamaru interrupted. You finally know who your cousin is. And she was a princess too. Yeah, I guess she was. Naruto smiled wanly. She must have escaped, since she was probably too young to fight. The blonde shook his head lightly, a sad smile on his face, as he continued rocking Manami. Sandaimjiji told me that my parents died when I was born, and he wasn't lying. So as the last Uzumaki, I decided to take everything left in the archives. Yes, and that is where I came in. Yaiba continued, getting them back on track. While Naruto-sama was gathering the wealth of Yuzu, he stumbled across an incredibly complex seal, etched into a stone coffin. Despite not knowing the consequences, Naruto-sama simply smeared his blood across the seal, like all the other seals he and Jiraiya-sama had been accessing. Yaiba gave Naruto a pointed look, to which the blonde responded by grinning sheepishly, and ribbing the back of his head. Rolling his eyes, Yaiba kept going. This seal, however, was not like the others. It did not unlock a container of scrolls, nor did it contain gold or other precious items. It was designed for one and one purpose only, the creation of the next Uzushio no Hasho. Their eyes all widened at his words, remembering that Yaiba introduced himself with that very same title. Naruto chuckled softly at their expressions, while Yaiba nodded at their astonished looks. Yes, that seal created me. Or it could be described as a renewal. Their eyes got even wider at his words, and they all looked to Naruto for confirmation. The blonde nodded, and jerked his head back to Yaiba as he continued. The seal itself is beyond my comprehension. Only one man knows exactly how it works, and he died long ago. In essence, the seal takes some of the blood and chakra of the user, typically the current clan head, and creates a guardian in the image of the user. Unlike the body, the hair color has always remained brown, and the eyes are always a dark green, and the mind it possesses has never changed, no matter who has used it. Somehow, every time I die, no matter where I am in the world, my mind is preserved inside that seal, and when the next clan head uses it, my mind inhabits the duplicate body that is created. I suspect that my hair and eyes are the same color as they were in my original body, and remain so as a way of distinguishing me from my creator. Wow! Sakura breathed, the other nodding in agreement. Just wow! I never knew that something like that was possible. Your clan must have been incredible, Naruto. Her face lit up with a smile, and Naruto grinned happily at her. Yeah, they really were. You should see some of their techniques when Yaiba uses them, they're incredible. Naruto exclaimed softly, trying to avoid waking his daughter. Yaiba shook his head. Yes, well, I can never use them as well as you will be able to, Naruto-sama. You are rapidly becoming my superior, in taijutsu, kenjutsu, and fuinjutsu. The techniques were designed for an Uzumaki, which I am not. Your body can handle the strain far better than mine, even if it is a copy of yours. Naruto grinned at him. Yeah, but you're still incredibly strong. I bet you could give Kakashi-sensei a run for his money, Yaiba. You honor me, Naruto-sama. Yaiba bowed. Why do you keep bowing to Naruto-kun? I am fumed, surprising everyone. And why are you okay with being used? Don't you care that you are forever trapped in a seal, being nothing but a servant to the Uzumakis? She shouted. Manami awoke, and having her nap disturbed did not sit well with her. She began to cry, her wails bouncing off the walls of the ramen stand. Naruto immediately started cooing to her, shifting her body so that her head was on his shoulder, and her bottom was sitting in his left hand, his right placed firmly on her back. He shot Ayam an icy glare, and would have reprimanded her for waking his precious daughter, when a rumbling laugh emanated from Yaiba. Ah, that is quite amusing, Ayam-san. Yaiba chuckled, having stifled his laughter. Your concern for my well-being is touching, and I thank you for it, but it is not necessary. My service to the Uzumaki clan is completely voluntary, regardless of what you might think. The seal in no way forces me to serve the one who creates me. In fact, I am allowed to view the memories of whomever attempts to create my next body, and discern what type of person they are. If I do not like what I see, then I shall refuse to serve them. So you see, there is no reason to get upset over my situation. I am quite happy to be the guardian of the head family, and will continue to do so until I get tired of living. Whenever my current body is destroyed, I have the option of returning to the seal, or letting go of my hold on this world. If that day ever comes, I will happily pass on to whatever awaits me. Yaiba spoke in a soft, assured voice, as if he had explained this many times before. Which he probably had. I kinda had the same reaction, I-am-chan. Naruto admitted, having somewhat succeeded in calming Manami. I felt that Yaiba was no better than a slave, until he told me otherwise. The mollified ramen chef looked down bashfully, embarrassed at her outburst. She shook off that embarrassment, before lifting her face to look at Naruto. Sorry about that, Naruto-kun, Yaiba-kun. I was just. It is alright, I-am-san, no harm done. However, it is not myself or Naruto-sama you should be apologizing to. At her confused look, he simply cracked a small smile. You should probably apologize to Manami-sama for interrupting her rest. After all, her nap was ended by your outburst. I am blushed in embarrassment again, while everyone else just laughed at the girl's predicament. This laughter was silenced as I brandished her ladle. Fearing the wrath of the kitchen implement, everyone quickly clammed up. Wow, you had one heck of an adventure, Niken! Konoha exclaimed, with Moegi and Udon chorusing their agreement. I can't wait until I become as strong as you, then I can go on cool adventures like that too. Maybe, Konoha. Naruto laughed, the genin's enthusiasm reminding him of himself at their age. But first, you'll have to train hard and earn it. Now, Yaiba? The blonde looked at his protector expectantly. Yaiba nodded, turning to the center of the counter, where his seal was still active. Pressing his hand down, he pumped his chakra in again. Fuin Kai. Seal, release. The kanji reappeared on the wall, before they withdrew back into the scroll still resting on the countertop, reforming the seal that Yaiba had drawn. The brunette rolled up the scroll before reaching back and placing it back in his pack. Naruto-sama. Yaiba called, while opening the shutter to the stand. I believe that you are supposed to meet your former team leader at your original training ground soon, correct? Oh, Craud! Naruto exclaimed. He quickly slung his travel pack over one shoulder, before digging in his pocket and pulling out several ryo. Thanks for the ramen Tuchijizan, I-am-chan. And it was great to see you, Konoha, Udon, Moegi. But Nei-chan and I gotta go. What are you, hey? Sakura protested, completely confused and indignant as Yaiba scooped her up bridal style. Yaiba, I'll me down. Naruto, call off your guard dog. Naruto chuckled as the pinkette struggled to get out of Yaiba's iron grip. Sorry, Nei-chan, but Kakashi-sensei had a test for us and I am not going to be the one who's late. Naruto quickly cradled Manami in both arms to shield her, before taking off towards the training grounds, Yaiba following. To anyone observing, it looked like the two had simply disappeared, with a shrill scream sounding in their wake. Chapter 4 Tests. On the outskirts of Konoha, two figures appeared in a large clearing. Upon closer inspection, the two turned out to be four, one being a baby of no more than 8 months, and the other being a young woman with pink hair. Both were being carried by the two men, one blonde, the other brunette. My deepest regrets, Sakura-sama. Yaiba stated with an apologetic tone, placing Sakura on her feet. Naruto-sama insisted that we. His apology was cut short by a gloved fist impacting against his face with bone-shattering force. The armored man was sent flying backwards by the massive blow, his body sailing in an arc until it was halted by a tree. Yaiba hit the tree hard, the wood groaning under the impact and a gasp of air escaping his lungs. His body hit the ground with a dull thud, a small bit of dirt billowing around him. Next time one of you does that, Sakura growled menacingly, a murderous look on her face as she turned to Naruto. I will pound your organs into pulp, and your bones into dust. Got it? The pinkette punctuated her threat with an ominous cracking of her knuckles. Naruto nodded frantically, Manami imitating her father's funny movements with a giggle. The blonde was sweating profusely, having seen evidence of his Nei-chan learning more than just medical ninjutsu from her mentor, and made a mental note to avoid annoying her like he used to. Well, at least while he wasn't holding Manami. Sakura let out a huff of annoyance, her anger quickly fading, as she looked around the clearing. The expression on the Mednine's face quickly changed from annoyed to melancholic, as she recognized the training ground. So he chose to test us here, huh? The pinkette mused ruefully, her face a mix of happy nostalgia and sadness. Figures that our pervert of a sensei would choose the place he spends the most time at. Naruto nodded his head, his face also a mixture of happiness and sorrow. Of course he would, Nei-chan. Even if our family isn't whole anymore, this will always be our special place. While he spoke, the blonde walked slowly to the middle of 3 wooden pillars stuck in the center of the clearing, putting his hand on the pole that used to dwarf him fondly. The clearing, and a portion of the surrounding forest, was training ground 3, doubling as the site of the memorial stone. It was a place filled with happy memories of their days as genin, and as a full team and family. However, their sadness stemmed from the fact that one of their number was missing, and had been for 3 years. Granted, neither the blonde nor Pinkett had seen each other for several years, but they knew that they would see each other again, and had a rough idea of when. Their third member, however, was a different story. Only time would tell if they would ever see him again, and have him as a part of their lives. And about Sasuke Nizan Naruto spoke quietly, nearly choking as he spoke his big brother's name. The Pinkett snapped her head towards him as he uttered her love's name, her expression saddening even further. I haven't given up on him, Nei-chan. I never will. The blonde declared quietly, his voice full of conviction, his eyes shining a deep blue as he locked eyes with Sakura. The Pinkett nodded, some of his attitude rubbing off on her. Of course you haven't, she stated almost ruefully. You made me a promise, and an Uzumaki never goes back on their word, do they? She returned his bright smile, before her expression became serious. But now I can come with you, and help bring him back. Naruto nodded happily, glad to see that she had become more confident in herself and her skills. His head turned as he heard a groan, and his eyes widened as they fell upon Yaiba's broken form. Oh crap, Yaiba! Naruto shouted, quickly moving to his guardian's side, Sakura following him. They both shook off the thoughts of the past, turning their focus to the present, which, apparently, held a great deal of pain and discomfort for Yaiba. Ow, the man hissed through gritted teeth. I apologize, Naruto-sama, such a blow should not have caught me off guard. He grunted, sitting up and shaking off the cobwebs that Sakura's fist had implanted in his skull. Don't worry about it. Naruto brushed off the apology, too concerned with his protector's well-being to care. Besides, it's not like you've been around Nei-chan a lot, you had no idea she has a habit of decking anyone who annoys her. The Pinkett shot Naruto an evil glare for that comment, before she turned to the man. Her hands began glowing green as she knelt beside him, channeling her chakra to examine and heal Yaiba's injuries. To her surprise, there were actually very few. Wow, you sure are tough, Yaiba-san, the Pinkett stated with a raised eyebrow. That hit would have at least fractured someone's cheek and bruised their back, but all you have is a bruise where I hit you, she informed him while healing said bruise. Of course. Yaiba chuckled, looking fondly at Naruto and Manami. It is my duty to serve as the shield for the Uzumaki head family, and all my bodies have been designed with this in mind. Naruto frowned at the mention of his servitude, but said nothing. The blonde had already debated it with Yaiba many times before, but he could not change the brunette's view of himself. Sakura merely shook her head, marveling once again at the ingenuity of the Uzumaki seals, before stopping her chakra flow and standing up. You all said, Yaiba-san, she said, patting the moisture off her knee that was present from her kneeling. But I advise that you try to avoid making me angry in the future. Doctor's orders. Naruto laughed a little at her joke, with Yaiba smirking a little at her recommendation. The brunette allowed himself to be pulled to his feet by one of Naruto's hands, before turning to gaze into the forest. I shall endeavor to avoid earning your ire in the future, Sakura-sama, Yaiba said over his shoulder. Now, I believe that I should take Manami-sama and join Jiraiya-sama and his companions in the forest to observe your test, Naruto-sama, the brunette said, turning back to face Naruto. Or would you rather fill in for the missing member of your time? Yaiba quirked an eyebrow, his emerald depths giving away nothing, as he gazed at Naruto. Sakura frowned slightly at the mention of their missing team member, but it was merely a flicker of displeasure. Naruto looked thoughtful for a moment, ignorant of Sakura's feelings, before shaking his head. Nah, I think we should leave the decision of who's going to be Nizan's fill-in to Kazan, Naruto decided, referring to Tsunade. Besides, knowing Jiraiya-sensei, he probably forgot to tell her about you, so you should go fill her in on your story. The blonde added, handing his daughter over to Yaiba, much to her discontent. He grinned at her, poking her in the stomach, eliciting a giggle from the tiny redhead. Don't worry, Nami-chan, Tu-chan just has to take care of some business, and then he'll be back. Okay? So be good for Yaiba. The little girl just looked at him curiously, a faint light of understanding glimmering in her blue orbs. She settled into Yaiba's hold, looking slightly uncomfortable. Tu-san go bye-bye? She asked, a hint of moisture building up in her eyes. Yes, but only for a bit, Nami-chan, Naruto cooed, trying to get rid of her sadness. He always hated it when she was sad, and not just because her wails could destroy eardrums. Her happiness was his number one priority, so having her anything but happy always upset him as well. Besides, you get to play with your Gigi and Ba-chan. Naruto's tone of voice, even if Manami couldn't understand the words, had the desired effect. She gave him a toothless grin and bobbed her head happily. Naruto grinned back at her, happy that she was happy, before giving Yaiba a nod. Alright, go on. I get the feeling Kazan really wants to know your story, and play with Nami-chan. Naruto waved him off, and the brunette bowed, making sure to hold Manami securely while doing so, before he turned and marched back into the forest. Okay, now come on out, Kakashi-sensei. Let's get this thing going. At Naruto's shout, Kakashi appeared on the fence near the southwestern edge of the clearing, the one closest to Konoha. The silver-haired man chuckled as Sakura started from his sudden appearance, his new Ika in hand. Very good, Naruto, you actually managed to sense my presence. Upon hearing their sensei's laid-back voice, Sakura glared at him. Don't do that, sensei. You know I hate it when you sneak up on me. Kakashi's sweat dropped, his eye curving in a sheepish smile. Sorry about that, Sakura. And how could I forget, the last time I did it you nearly took my head off. Naruto laughed, and Sakura's eyebrow twitched in irritation. Kakashi, deciding that making her angry before he tested them probably wasn't the best idea, placed his book back in his pouch. As he put the book away, his hand grabbed two objects from the same pouch before he pulled them out and dangled them in front of his face. Heh, so that's what it's gonna be, yeah? Naruto remarked, cracking his neck. Let me guess, Nachan and I have to get the bells from you. Kakashi flipped of the fence, landing gracefully, as his eye curved into his signature smile. Well, seems like training wasn't the only thing Jiraiya-sama taught you. You've gotten 2 more answers right than you usually do. Naruto looked confused for a moment. But you've only done 2 things I figured out. Exactly? Kakashi said brightly. Naruto looked confused for another split second, before he scowled at Kakashi. The silver-haired man chuckled, while Sakura broke down laughing. Oh sure, make fun of the dope. Not like he has feelings or anything. Naruto grumbled, a cloud hanging over his head. Sorry, Naruto. Kakashi chuckled, with Sakura trying to rein in her giggling. I just couldn't resist. Yeah? Naruto groused. Can we just start this thing already? I'm sorry too, Naruto. Sakura apologized, her gentle smile letting him know she was just teasing. But he's right, we should get started, Kakashi-sensei. The jonin let out one last chuckle, his one visible eye becoming serious as he tied the bells onto his belt. Alright, but I have a few things to say before we start. At their go-ahead looks, he continued. 1. I meant that compliment about your detection skills, Naruto. I wasn't exactly trying my hardest, but I definitely wasn't going easy on you either. Naruto beamed, while Sakura looked faintly annoyed with herself. Suppressing another chuckle, Kakashi continued. 2. I just wanted to say how proud I am of both of you. You've come so far, especially you, Naruto. You are a natural father, and I know your parents would be proud. Naruto's eyes watered a little, along with Sakura's. And finally, I want you both to come at me. With intent to kill. The remnants of Team 7 chorus, getting a smile out of their mentor. We know. Well then, Kakashi slipped into his personal taijutsu stance, one he created using multiple styles he copied, with the help of Guy. He lifted his headband, his Sharingan eye burning as he opened it. Let's get started. You have until sunset to get these bells from me, giving you about 4 hours. He eyed both of his opponents warily, thinking back to the advice their teachers had offered. Flashback. So Kakashi, think you can take both of your old students? Tsunade asked, a slight smirk on her lips. The copy ninja eye smiled as he walked beside her, Shizen, and Jiraiya. Of course I can. He replied confidently. No matter how much strong they've gotten, I still have years of experience on them. In addition to that, their teamwork is going to be pretty shaky after 3 years apart, especially since they've learned so many things from you two, and haven't had the time to incorporate their new fighting styles with one another. You make some good points, Kakashi. Jiraiya mused, but then turned to the jonin with a slight mischievous glint in his eyes. Let me give you some free advice for fighting my student. Jiraiya offered, leaning in close to Kakashi. Don't underestimate him. That kid has got a gift for both taijutsu and ninjutsu. But if he pulls out a seal, or his sword, I only have one word to say to you. At Kakashi's inquisitive look, Jiraiya said one word. Run. Kakashi's eye widened, and Jiraiya jumped off into the tree occupying the training ground, snickering. Tsunade shook her head in annoyance, and Shizen sighed at the Gamma Senin's antics. The busty Hokage turned to the Kopinin, keeping her advice short and sweet. I'd listen to him. It's not often the old pervert tells someone to run from a fight. Tsunade patted him on the shoulder as she passed him, intent on following Jiraiya into the trees. As for Sakura, well, just don't get hit. Then she was gone. Shizen sighed as Kakashi grumbled under his breath. I could have said that. He mumbled irately. The Gondame's first apprentice sighed again, before moving to follow her mentor. Good luck, Kakashi-kun, she said with an encouraging and slightly flirtatious smile. Put on a good show, okay? Right. Kakashi replied, a very slight blush on his face. He thanked Kami that his mask covered it up. The Kopinin giggled slightly to himself as he faded into some of the trees as he approached the memorial stone. Still got it. Very faintly, Kakashi noted. He could hear the sounds of Tsunade yelling as he hid himself. He shrugged it off, having to focus on hiding himself so that he wouldn't be seen, but so that his team would still have a chance to detect him if they were alert. Flashback end. Kakashi looked between the two warily, the advice of the two Sanins still fresh in his mind. He knew that he had to be careful, especially when Shinobi on Tsunade and Jiraiya's level told him that doing so was a good idea. Naruto eyed his sensei cautiously, glancing over at his partner. The pinkette was doing the same, watching both Kakashi and their partner. Naruto winked at her, before he suddenly blurred into motion. The blonde flipped open the lid of his weapons pouch, drawing a handful of shuriken. He let them fly, his arm a blur as it flung the metal stars. The shuriken flew towards Kakashi, who had mirrored Naruto's action as soon as he saw his student move. Naruto quickly jumped into the air to avoid his enemy's weapons, the shuriken passing harmlessly beneath him, but berated himself for his mistake almost immediately. Kakashi had simply dropped to all fours, his body mere inches from the ground, and let loose with another fist full of shuriken. Luckily, the blonde had a plan for scenarios like this. In a poof of smoke, an exact copy of the blonde popped into existence. The clone grabbed Naruto and yanked him out of the path of the oncoming shuriken before disappearing in another cloud of smoke. Its job done. Naruto landed, facing the opposite direction. Sensing danger, the blonde moved in a fluid pattern and spun around. Kakashi, caught off guard by Naruto's ability to react and move in time to counter him, kicked up his speed a notch. The elite jonin disappeared from view, stunning Naruto and Sakura, before reappearing behind Naruto. The copy nin seized Naruto's wrist in an iron grip, twisting his arm up behind him. However, he realized his mistake as soon as he caught the blonde, realizing his student had him dead to rights. Behind him, a clone that had apparently been hidden in the underbrush held a kunai to Kakashi's back, a grim look on its face. "I must say, you've gotten far faster than you used to be, Naruto," Kakashi said merrily, a faraway look in his eyes as he realized how much his kids had grown without him. "Not fast enough, it seems." The Naruto stuck in Kakashi's hold grunted. "You've been training too, haven't you, Kakashi-sensei? I don't remember you being this fast before." Sakura paled a little, realizing that as fast as the two had been moving, that her teacher was still holding back. The copy nin chuckled a little as he caught her expression, before turning his attention back to Naruto. "Well, yes, I have. If I hadn't, then my cute little genin would have caught up to me, and we can't have that happening just yet," Kakashi said with fake haughtiness. "After all, I still have my pride." "Whatever." The Naruto holding Kakashi at knife point snorted. "Wouldn't matter if I was the same speed as you anyway. 'Cause you're not the real Kakashi-sensei." The clone quickly thrust its kunai forward, and Kakashi disappeared in a poof, the clone following soon after. Sakura, who had been watching the exchange after getting over her awe at how fast the two were moving, quickly spun around, scanning the surrounding area for their missing adversary. After scanning the trees and sky, the pinkette deduced that there was only one place left for Kakashi to hide. Having finished her quick examination of their surroundings, the pinkette drew back her fist, channeling a precise amount of chakra to her muscles and fist itself. Naruto quickly realized what she was going to do, and hop a short distance into the air. Short being relative, he leapt nearly 5 meters straight up. Turns out his decision was the correct one, because as soon as Sakura's fist touched the ground, all hell broke loose. The chakra in her fist, combined with the chakra strengthening her muscles, built up an immense amount of force. When it was released into the ground, the earth shattered, massive slabs of stone being uprooted by the force of Sakura's blow. Naruto's eyes bugged out of his head, and he reminded himself to never piss Sakura off again. He landed somewhat ungracefully on a slanted piece of rock, using chakra to stick so he could regain his balance. Kakashi's eyes bugged out of his head at the display of ridiculous strength. He had known that Sakura had improved her strength due to the times that he surprised her while checking up on her, but he had no idea she was at the same level as her mentor. One full strength punch from her, and he'd be done for. "Found you, Kakashi-sensei," Sakura said sweetly, a small smile on her face. The jonin snapped out of his awe, leaping out of his exposed hiding place and landing on a flat piece of stone that was raised above the others by Sakura's blow, before he disappeared in a blur of speed. "Damn!" Naruto swore, his keen eyes watching as the copy nin blurred out of the clearing. "Come on, Sakura, we need to chase him down. We have to keep the pressure on him, keep him from setting up traps," he called, sprinting at full speed after their sensei. "Right," Sakura shouted, deciding to follow Naruto's lead. She sprinted off after them, cursing herself for not working on her outright speed. Granted, she was flexible and agile enough to keep up with most in close quarters, but she lacked raw speed in both her attacks and movements. Just another thing she had to add to her already grueling training regime. Naruto slid to a stop, his piercing blue eyes scanning the shadows of the underbrush. He focused on the treetops especially, knowing that if Kakashi had the advantage of height as well as surprise that he was done for. Unfortunately, he wasn't really cut out to be a censor, and it showed. Now, I don't think you'll find me up there. Naruto spun around smoothly, as if he was sliding on ice, to face Kakashi. The copy nearly gasped in surprise as Naruto instinctively slid into a stance, one he hadn't seen since before the teen was born. That stance. Yep. Naruto smiled, relishing the look of surprise and slight fear on Kakashi's face. I learned it from Yaiba and the scrolls we found in Yuzushio. The blonde had both of his elbows flared outwards, at a 65-degree angle to the ground, with his palms open and facing Kakashi. His legs were only slightly bent, and his feet were just a little wider than shoulder-width apart. Every muscle in his body was tense, ready to move in a split second. He grinned at his opponent, before uttering a sentence that filled Kakashi with dread. Come on, Kakashi-sensei, you're not afraid of my Kitenkin, are you? Rotating fist. The copy quickly ran through what he knew about the Kitenkin from seeing Naruto's mother use it. The odd stance the user took was the key to the whole style. The user channeled a small amount of chakra to their feet, allowing them to slide across solid ground with ease. Using this, a user attacked in unpredictable and roundabout patterns that would have anyone who wasn't Sharingan user or Taijutsu master scrambling, assuming they could even keep up. Even if the user's opponent was one of the latter, they would still be hard-pressed to defeat the user in time to stop them from building up their momentum. If the Kitenkin practitioner continues to build up momentum, their blows will continue to get strong until the enemy's guard is destroyed. The style also worked well against multiple opponents, allowing the user to continually move from target to target and keep them at bay. It was a highly aggressive style that was nigh unbeatable if the user was fast and flexible enough. Kakashi shuddered, and Naruto's grin widened. He knew exactly how feared the style of his clan was, and had a feeling Kakashi knew about it. However, the next words out of the copy-nin's mouth made what the blonde was about to do even sweeter. I would be, if you had the strength and speed to utilize it fully. But at your current level, you're still no match for me, I'm afraid. Kakashi smiled, his dread vanishing as he recalled the secret necessary to make the style so lethal. The dread returned with a vengeance when his student simply laughed. Oh, you mean you don't know about this? Naruto asked with a grin, before several lines of kanji appeared on his body. The blonde unzipped his shirt halfway, revealing a pair of perfectly chiseled pectorals and just a hint of the six-pack resting below. Channeling chakra to his chest, Naruto revealed exactly what Kakashi was praying that his student wasn't using. I completely forgot to turn my Taiko Fuin, resistance seal, off. Silly me. Naruto grinned as he channeled chakra to his hand and moved to deactivate the seal, but his sensei had other plans. The blonde bent backwards at the waist, showing an extreme amount of flexibility, as he avoided the punch aimed to take his head off. He planted his right hand on the ground, using it as a pivot to lash out at the silver-haired jonin with his legs. Kakashi stepped backwards, Naruto's feet passing within centimeters of his face, before he charged back in, determined to prevent Naruto from getting the time to release his seal. Naruto pushed off the ground with his right arm after finishing his failed attack, laying back on his feet. The blonde had no time to rest, as Kakashi came at him with a sequence of blows that he had a difficult time keeping up with, let alone blocking. The exchange lasted for what seemed like hours to Naruto. He dodged some of the blows, and blocked most of the others, but he was simply too slow to evade them all with his Taiko Fuin still active. After taking a rather vicious blow to the ribs, Naruto finally found the opening he needed. Kakashi, sensing victory, threw one last punch, hoping to knock the blonde out, only to leap back as a leg crashed to the ground where he was previously standing. He mentally swore at missing his opportunity to take Naruto out of the fight, before preparing his body to move. Damn, almost had him. Sakura muttered, yank her leg out of the crack her axe kick had created. You okay, Naruto? Did we win, coach? Naruto asked dazedly, his head still reeling from the punishing blows Kakashi had delivered. Sakura's eyebrow twitched in annoyance, and Kakashi couldn't resist chuckling. Naruto recovered a few seconds later, shaking his head to get rid of the haze in his head, before he flipped back to his feet. Yeah, I'm fine. Did you have be so vicious, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto asked indignantly, rubbing his ribs where Kakashi landed his nearly penultimate blow. I couldn't tell if I was getting hit by your fist or a sledgehammer. Well, your enemies aren't going to give you time to do things like release a seal, so why should I? The copy-nin asked in cheerful tone. 'Cause you're my sensei, who's supposed to teach me things instead of bashing my face in? Naruto deadpanned. He cracked his neck, watching the jonin like a hawk, before channeling chakra to his right hand again and slapping it on his seal. Taiko Fuin Kai! He shouted, twisting his hand clockwise 90 degrees. The seal flashed bright blue, before the writings faded back to their original black. The only difference that anyone could see was the loss of tension in Naruto's muscles. The blonde cracked his neck, before hopping lightly on his feet to get used to the lessening of his seal. "Ah, I feel as light as a feather," Naruto exclaimed happily. "Been a while since I took the seal off." Sakura smiled lightly in amusement at the blonde's antics. However, Kakashi was anything but amused. He eyed the two warily, wondering just how much harder his fight had gotten. "Naruto, what did that do exactly?" Sakura asked, curious as why her teammate seemed so happy to remove a seal. "Huh?" Naruto asked dumbly, before his face lit up in realization. "Oh, sorry Sakura. I forgot that not everyone knows Fuinjutsu." Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly, before his expression changed from abashed to serious. If Sakura were to describe it, she would have related his look to one a sensei would have while giving a lecture. The Taiko Fuin is a seal designed to increase the strain one's muscles are under, as if the user were under a higher gravitational pull than normal. It can be used to increase overall speed and strength, without the use of weights. Another benefit is that unlike weights, the Taiko Fuin works every single muscle in the body, without exception. Even internal organs are strengthened somewhat. Sakura's jaw dropped, and Kakashi nearly lost his gifted Sharingan with how far his eyes bugged out. Naruto cocked his head to the side, puzzled by their shocked reactions. "What?" he asked, clueless to the cause of their dumbfounded looks. "Is there something on my face? Is it a spider?" Naruto shouted frantically, his hands rubbing his entire head vigorously to remove the imaginary arachnid. No, Sakura said, a tinge of surprise still present in her voice. "It's just, you sounded so smart," she finished lamely, bracing for the hurt look. Fortunately, it never came. "Oh, right." Naruto nodded, as if everything made sense. He then repeated his earlier sheepish gesture. "Yeah, Jiraiya-sensei had that look on his face a lot while we were training. I'm just surprised I didn't realize why you guys looked so surprised sooner." "Ahem, if I could get us back on track?" Kakashi interjected. "Naruto's smarter, congratulations. Now can we please get back to the trial?" "Oh right, sorry." It was Sakura's turn to look embarrassed and sheepish as she turned her attention back to the reason they were in the middle of a training ground. "Don't say sorry, Sakura," Kakashi chided her. "Just don't do it again. Had I been a real enemy, I could have easily killed you both." Kakashi slipped back into his taijutsu stance, before deciding to inquire about his student's seal, if only to gain some information about how much he needed to hold back. "By the way, Naruto, what level was your Taiko Fuin at?" Naruto slipped into the Kaitenkin opening stance, a mischievous grin stretching across his face. "Oh, somewhere between level 11 and 12, I can't remember." "What?" Kakashi shouted, his Sharingan detecting no hint of deceit in the blonde's words. "That's impossible. The human body can only withstand level 8, and that's someone who's as fit a guy. And how did you advance levels so quickly?" Naruto's grin grew even wider. "Well, as you recall, Kakashi-sensei, I'm not exactly human. I'm an Uzumaki and Jinchuriki, so my body can withstand a lot more than normal, and heals more severe damage far faster. How else would I have survived Nichin's brain-damaging hits, and still be this sane?" The Uzumaki snorted, and Sakura had the decency to blush in embarrassment. "I said I was sorry," the pinkette mumbled, toeing the ground adorably. "I know, and I already forgave you." Naruto grinned cheekily, zipping his black turtleneck back up. "But if you really want to make it up to me, back me up," he shouted, blurring towards Kakashi with insane speed. "Oh crap!" Kakashi managed to shout, before he focused all his efforts on dodging. Naruto's fist barely missed his head, the wind displaced by the passage of the blonde's fist whipping Kakashi's silver hair back. The jonin sprung backwards, the follow-up kick grazing his flak jacket. Naruto spun with the kick, delivering a follow-up elbow to Kakashi's left bicep, spinning the kopinin like a top. Kakashi mentally cursed, knowing he was in trouble. He prided himself on being able to keep up with Guy without the eccentric, spandex-wearing jonin wearing his weights, but Naruto's speed put even the mighty green beast's unburdened speed to shame. He would go as far as saying that his student had even reached his father's level of raw combat speed, which was the equivalent of Guy with 3 of the inner gates open. There was no way that he could engage Naruto in hand-to-hand combat, especially when he had a style as dangerous the Kaitenkin to back up that speed. Unfortunately, he had no time to relax, as a pink-tinted shadow descended on him. "Shinaro!" Sakura shouted, her foot loaded with chakra as she flew towards Kakashi's down form in a flying kick. Kakashi rolled out of the way, watching as Sakura's foot smashed clean through the tree like it was a twig. His marveling lasted less than a split second, as Naruto appeared in front of him with his fist moving towards his face. Naruto was sure that he had Kakashi, but the jonin had decades of challenges from his eternal rival to accustom himself to fighting opponents far faster than himself. He caught Naruto's fist, wincing at the force behind it, before flowing into a textbook over-the-shoulder throw. The blonde had ample time to react, flipping himself upright midair while swinging his foot out to catch the copy nin in the back of the head. Kakashi ducked, avoiding the kick out of pure instinct, before catching Sakura dashing towards him from the left with his Sharingan. He thanked Kami that Sakura wasn't even close to as fast as him, because if she was, he mentally shuddered as he dodged her punch, grabbing her arm as it passed. Naruto landed softly, skidding back 1 or 2 meters, before leaping forward to get back into the fray. Unfortunately, he leapt right into Sakura's flight path as Kakashi spun her around. The two sailed through the air, a tree interrupting their flight, and landed in a tangled heap at the base of said tree. "Damn it, Nei-chan, get off me!" Naruto shouted, struggling to untangle himself from the pinkette. Sakura squirmed, growing angrier by the second as she unsuccessfully tried to remove herself from Naruto. "I'm trying. Quit whining, you little shrimp." "Hey!" Naruto shouted indignantly. "I'm way taller than you now. Don't call me that." "Very good." Kakashi panted lightly. Apparently he had worked on his endurance as well. "Both of you have improved your taijutsu vastly, though both of you still need some work. Naruto, keep practicing your katas, you almost slipped back into your brawler style a couple of times there. Sakura, work on your speed. All the strength in the world won't matter if you can't hit your opponent." The duo grumbled as they finished extracting themselves from their heap, glaring up at their sensei. Kakashi's eye smile seemed to mock them as they glared at him. Naruto grit his teeth, reining in his temper as he tried to formulate a strategy to take down Kakashi. A devious thought flashed through his mind, and he grinned evilly as the perfect trap formed in his head. He was about to put his plan into action before Kakashi vanished deeper into the training ground. "Shit!" Sakura cursed, starting to follow the copy nin before Naruto grabbed her shoulder. She turned to him with an inquisitive glare that changed to a devious one as she caught the look on her adopted little brother's face. "You have a plan, don't you?" she asked rhetorically. "You know it." Naruto grinned, his old prankster side showing itself. He reached back into his supply pouch, a poof of smoke denoting his use of a storage seal. He pulled out a small object, his smile growing even more devious. "Here's what we're gonna do." Kakashi leapt through the trees cautiously, wary of any traps that might have been set up. He was headed towards the site of his brief but intense bout of taijutsu with his students, the last place he had seen them. It had been nearly an hour, and it was approaching 4 in the afternoon. The silver-haired jonin had seen neither hide nor hair of Naruto or Sakura since 3, so he decided to come looking for them. He landed on a tree at the edge of the small clearing where their battle took place, right next to the one Sakura snapped in half. Kakashi scanned the clearing, his Sharingan picking out several small traps, before both eyes bulged as they landed on the object in the middle of the clearing surrounded by a rope trap. "It can't be," he gasped quietly. "It doesn't come out for 3 months. But the dimensions, the color, it has to be." Sitting in the middle of the clearing was the next edition of Ika Ika. Titled Makeout Tactics, this issue wouldn't be released until November, but there it was, his Sharingan detecting no genjutsu or flaws in the book's appearance. Kakashi leapt down from the tree, his body tense as he disarmed the traps surrounding the book with all possible haste. The glint of madness in his eyes seemed to make them sparkle as he cut the rope that would have ensnared his ankle before he snatched up the book with a shout of glee. "You thought you could use the precious to trap me, didn't you?" He giggled insanely. "My devotion to the god of Ika Ika has allowed me to obtain this holy book without falling for your pitiful attempts to ensnare me, and now the precious is mine." The small part of Kakashi's mind that was still rational registered a distant shout of feminine indignation followed by a dull thump, but the copy nin paid it no mind. He was too obsessed with the latest issue of his addiction to care. He opened the book slowly, his addled mind seeing a beam of divine light as he slowly opened the book. Unfortunately for Kakashi, he failed to check the book for traps in his haste to read the holy text. As soon as his eyes fell upon the seal placed on the back of the front cover, he froze in place. "Ha, I knew it would work!" a familiar blonde shouted. Naruto jogged into the clearing, pumping his fist in triumph as he moved to Kakashi's frozen form. Sakura followed after him, an expression of righteous feminine fury plastered on her face. Naruto grinned gleefully as he spotted the expression of horror on Kakashi's face. "What's the matter, Kakashi-sensei? Can't move?" Kakashi's expression changed to a frown of self-loathing as he realized that he had been played. Naruto's grin widened as he saw Kakashi's face change. He snatched a bell off Kakashi's waist, brushing past the jonin with a shout of triumph. "You disgust me, sensei," Sakura scolded, stomping up to the frozen copy nin. "That was obviously a trap, and what do? You let your obsession with this smut to override your common sense, and walked right into it." She let out a derisive snort as her mind conjured up another scenario. "At least you weren't dumb enough to fall for the trap that you used on Naruto. Then I would have lost all the respect I had for you." "I resent that," Naruto shouted, his happy tone and ridiculous dancing not matching his words. "Hataki!" A female voice bellowed from the forest opposite where Naruto and Sakura entered. Tsunade stomped into the clearing with Manami cradled in her arms. The little redhead was busy giggling and trying to capture Tsunade's swaying ponytails as she snuggled the woman's large breasts. Yaiba, Shizen, and bruised Jiraiya strolled, or in the latter's case limped, into the clearing behind her. Yaiba had an impassive expression on his face, while Shizen was frowning in disapproval and Jiraiya was giggling lecherously. "Hey Kazan, Nami-chan, Yaiba, Ne-chan, Jiraiya-sensei. I'll take my jonin vest now." Naruto bounced over to Tsunade, holding his hand out with a childish expression on his face. "You quiet!" Tsunade snapped. "You haven't earned it yet. And you!" She turned to the still-frozen Kakashi, her face contorted in anger. "You were supposed to test him and Sakura, not get caught in an obvious trap less than 2 hours in. You call yourself an elite jonin?" She snorted, her expression one that promised great pain if he didn't give a good explanation. "But Ika," Kakashi whimpered, terrified of the enraged Godame. "But nothing," Tsunade bellowed. "If you weren't such an asset to this village, or weren't needed to finish evaluating their skills, I would put you in the hospital myself," the busted blonde threatened. "Tsunade-sama, you must remain calm. You are upsetting Manami-sama," Yaiba pointed out calmly. Tsunade immediately switched from enraged to caring, as she cuddled the sniffling baby in her arms. I'm sorry Manami-chan. I wasn't mad at you, I was just yelling at the stupid jonin." "Who's an adorable baby? Yes you are, yes you are!" Tsunade cooed, making faces at the bundle in her arms. "Don't worry Tsunade-sama, Kakashi-kun and I are going to have a long talk tonight," Shizen stated ominously, causing a chill to run down the present male's spines, and making Kakashi nearly wet himself in fear. "Now, Naruto-kun, can you please release Kakashi-kun so that he can finish testing you and Sakura-chan?" Naruto nodded, stepping up to Kakashi and placing his hand on the book. Channeling his chakra, he twisted his hand clockwise. "Saishijotai Fuin, Kai. Stasis seal, release." Kakashi nearly fell forward as the seal was released, but caught himself before he fell. The book that caused the trap disappeared faster than anyone could see, and the copy-nin shrugged and chuckled sheepishly. "Sorry about that," he apologized, turning to the gathered shinobi. "I won't let it happen again Hokage-sama, Shizen-chan." The former simply ignored him, too busy paying attention to Manami, while the latter huffed and crossed her arms. "But still, that was a well-executed trap Naruto, Sakura. Knowing your enemy and using their weaknesses against them was textbook strategy, and well done. Unfortunately, for you to qualify for Jonin Naruto, Tsunade-sama still needs to see your ninjutsu, and if I'm not mistaken your kenjutsu." Naruto nodded happily, while Sakura looked surprised at the mention of Jonin rank. "Wait, why is Otoro up for Jonin? I thought he needed to have an evaluation of his leadership skills done." "He did." Jiraiya spoke up this time, his injuries miraculously healed. "Near the time when Manami was born, the Gaki led Team 9 on a mission and passed the evaluation with flying colors. Both Guy and I signed off on the report. He is definitely ready to be a jonin, despite his lack of experience." Sakura nodded, a little warily, while Kakashi continued speaking. "Alright, Sakura, you can either leave or stay and watch the tests. But you passed your exam with flying colors. Welcome back to Team Kakashi," the silver-haired jonin stated proudly. Sakura smiled happily, and Naruto grinned. "Alright, we're getting the team back together. Come on Kakashi-sensei, let's finish these tests. I want to get my flak jacket and take my daughter to her new home," Naruto exclaimed excitedly. Everyone laughed, and Kakashi shook his head ruefully. "No matter how smart or competent you get, you're still that same little knucklehead." Everyone laughed a little more when Naruto shouted indignantly. "There's nothing wrong with that, Naruto. Come on, we have to go somewhere more open for these next tests." Kakashi grinned evilly, and Naruto swallowed to get rid of the sudden dryness in his throat. He knew that even though he might be Kakashi's equal in taijutsu, his old teacher far outclassed him in ninjutsu. The group took to the trees, everyone but Naruto and Kakashi hanging back somewhat. The duo soon found themselves in the middle of the Memorial Stones clearing, with everyone else making themselves comfortable in the trees at the edge of the clearing. The jonin and aspiring jonin squared off, the setting sun glinting off the river to their left and right, respectively. Naruto eyed Kakashi warily, waiting for him to make the first move. "Waiting for your opponent to make the first move so that you can counter appropriately." "Very good." Kakashi smiled. "You've come a long way, Naruto. I'm proud of you." "Thanks, sensei." Naruto grinned, his eyes closed in a foxy expression, before he leapt to the side to avoid the lightning bolt that went through the air right where he was standing previously. "That was a dirty trick, sensei." Kakashi chuckled lightly at Naruto's pout. "I knew you would dodge my right-on, sight Kabuto, lightning style, static bolt, so what's the problem?" The copy nin's expression grew serious, and he gestured to Naruto with his right hand. Come on, let's see what you've learned. Naruto warily circled to his right, trying to put the water to his back. Even if his eyes had become far sharper, a product of his extremely high speed, he still hadn't caught any of the hand signs Kakashi had used. It was evident to him exactly why his sensei was regarded as a ninjutsu master. Alright, you asked for it. The blonde ran through several hand signs at a ridiculous pace, Kakashi's Sharingan instantly showing him exactly what jutsu his student was using. He blurred through his own set of hand signs, ending slightly before Naruto even though the blonde started before him. Doton, Dorihiki, Earth Style, Earth Wall. Suiton, Suidan, Water Style, Water Bullet. Naruto expelled a huge torrent of water from his mouth, and it impacted against the massive wall of earth that Kakashi had summoned to counter the Uzumaki's technique. The earthen wall, despite having the elemental advantage over water, barely withstood the attack due to the amount of chakra Naruto put into it. Eventually, just as his technique was about to run out of the chakra he poured into it, Naruto's attack broke through the wall to hit nothing. Crap! Naruto exclaimed, searching frantically for Kakashi. His instincts screamed at him to move, and he leapt forward just as a pair of hands attempted to grab his ankles. Kakashi sprung up from the ground, now between Naruto and the river. The blonde cursed himself for falling for Kakashi's trick, and the jonin had an amused look on his face. Not bad, Naruto, apparently your Suiton affinity is very strong. Not to mention your massive reserves. That's a deadly combination. And your hand signs have become much quicker. The Kopinin praised. Your instincts for battle have also gotten much better. Not many people can avoid my Doton, Shinjuzanshu, Earth Style, double suicide decapitation. Thanks, sensei. Naruto grinned. With my chakra control being much better, I can keep firing off Sudens all day. Let's kick it up a notch. Yes, let's. Kakashi agreed. He abruptly leapt backwards, landing on the river. He flew through some hand signs, and Naruto's eyes widened as he recognized the sequence. He quickly went through 5 hand signs, the exact same as Kakashi, before they both ended on Tora Tiger. Suiton, Suryodin, Water Style, Water Dragon Bullet. They both called out, ending at the same time. The water around Kakashi twisted around him, forming the shape of a serpentine dragon. His eyes bugged out when he saw that Naruto's was identical in size and shape, and had formed out of the moisture in the air, even with the use of only 5 of the 44 hand signs. The 2 dragons clashed, spraying water all over the clearing. Holy shit, Naruto, you've been working really hard, haven't you? Kakashi exclaimed, still somewhat denying the fact that his student had matched his technique with less hand seals and no water. I haven't seen a Suiton affinity that strong since Hashigaki Kisame. Naruto grinned, pleased that all his hard work had paid off. You know it, Kakashi-sensei. Kage Bunshin are a blessing when it comes to mastering an affinity. His grin turned into a small smirk as he uttered his next sentence. Unfortunately for your sensei, water isn't my only affinity. Naruto leapt back even further, running through a dozen hand signs at blinding speeds. He ended on Tatsu, Dragon, and Kakashi leapt to the side as he tried to comprehend the fact that his student had 2 affinities. Futon, Kazakiri, Wind Style, Cutting Wind. Naruto shouted, his lungs expanding to almost comical proportions as he inhaled. Kakashi would have laughed if he didn't know what was coming. Naruto released his breath in bursts, several blades of wind flying towards Kakashi as the jonin dodged them, his Sharingan making it easy. Naruto's cloak flapped, the left side nearly parallel to the ground, as he unleashed the technique. Good, Naruto, Kakashi called. But I've seen these ninjutsu before. Show me something new. He flipped over the last blade, ready to dodge or counter whatever Naruto threw at him next. Right. Naruto shouted, blurring through the hand seals of his one original jutsu. He held both arms over his head, his fingers becoming claws as he gathered air and chakra. He slashed them both downwards at the same time, calling out the name of his technique. Futon Kitsune Sumaden, Fox Claw Bullet. 2 sets of 5 claws flew towards Kakashi, tearing furrows in the earth as they attempted to shred the Kopinin. Kakashi nodded in appreciation of the technique's power, even as he flew through the hand signs of his counter. Katon, Carrier Enden, Fire Style, Dragon Flame Bullet. The jonin spewed a stream of fire from his mouth, the chakra increasing its heat and shaping it into a serpentine dragon composed of flames. The 2 jutsu clashed, and the Carrier Enden won without much struggle. The winds of Naruto's attack merely fueled the flaming serpent, making it even more powerful. Fuck! Naruto swore, running through several hand signs. Suiton, Sujinhiki, Water Style, Water Wall. The blonde spat out a deluge of water at the ground, which swirled around him in a wall 5 meters tall. The supercharged fire dragon impacted against the swirling defense of water. The pumped-up fire jutsu would have won against an ordinary defensive jutsu, but the Uzumaki had poured in more chakra than necessary to reinforce his defense. A cloud of steam exploded from the point of impact, blocking Naruto from everyone's view. Damn, Kakashi-sensei, are you trying to kill me? The blonde asked rhetorically from within the haze. Nope. A cheerful voice called out from behind him, causing the blonde to whirl around in surprise. I knew you would come up with something. Even if you didn't have a ninjutsu to counter, I recognized some of the seals on your right arm. You could have blocked any of my attacks without using your own, am I right? The blonde flared his chakra, making it wind-natured as he did so, and blew away the steam. He chuckled at being found out. The steam cleared enough to reveal Kakashi, leaning against a tree with an amused and proud look on his face. Expelling chakra from all over your body while changing its nature? I'd say you're pretty close to mastering your wind nature, and aren't far behind on water either. That Tsuryudan matched mine, even with less hand seals and no water source. Kakashi pushed himself off the tree, getting into a ready stance as he faced off against the blonde. Now that we've seen your ninjutsu, let's see what those seals on your arm can do. And just to make sure you don't try to counter with one of your own ninjutsu, let me let you in on a little secret. Kakashi cupped his hand around his mouth, lowered his voice to a stage whisper, though it still carried clearly to everyone around. This jutsu is an S-rank technique, and the only other jutsu I've invented besides Chidori, 1,000 birds. You'll need an S-rank jutsu or seal to counter it. Naruto's eyes widened, and he almost started to panic. He quickly calmed himself, but was unable to catch any of the hand signs Kakashi ran though. The blonde quickly placed his left hand on his right bicep, holding his right arm out straight, palm facing Kakashi. The copy nin's hand started to crackle with electricity as his chakra built up to huge levels, before he raised his arms over his head and slashed downward. Raikiri Okami, lightning style, lightning blade wolf. Naruto's expression was a mix of anticipation, awe, and fear as he watched Kakashi execute the technique. He wasn't disappointed. A large wolf, made of lightning, formed from the energy in Kakashi's hand. As soon as it hit the ground, it shot towards Naruto, a single strand of lightning connecting it to its creator's hand. Naruto cursed as he jolted out of his frozen state, having spent too long admiring the power and creativity of his old teacher. He quickly channeled high chakra into the seal tattooed on his right bicep and shoulder. The kanji quickly expanded and flowed down his arm, reaching his hand in a split second. As soon as it did, a deep blue barrier shaped like an octagon sprang from his hand, quickly expanding until it was 3 meters in diameter and 1 meter thick. Uzumaki Fuinjutsu, Kyukyoku no Shirudo, Uzumaki Sealing Arts, Ultimate Shield. The jutsu clashed with Naruto's barrier in an explosion of electricity. The wolf clawed and bit into the chakra barrier, creating deep gouges, but the barrier seal held firm. Naruto and Kakashi locked eyes, either willing to give in, and channeled more chakra to their respective techniques. Unfortunately for Kakashi, no one in the world had the chakra capacity to go head-to-head with an Uzumaki, and he quickly found that his Raikiri Okami was too draining for him to keep up if he wanted to continue testing Naruto. So he cut the chakra to his technique, letting the wolf disperse in a shower of sparks and electricity. Naruto saw that he had succeeded in blocking Kakashi's attack, so he ceased fueling his barrier. Wow, sensei, you really improved the Chidori, huh? Now you can attack with it at a distance, instead of getting up close and personal. Naruto complimented, panting lightly from the strain of fueling his ultimate defense. I could say the same for you, Naruto. To master an S rank at your age takes a lot of talent. Kakashi praised, getting an embarrassed blush out of Naruto. I remember Kushina-sama asking me to test my Chidori against that technique when she finally figured out how to use it, and she was almost twice your age at the time. Naruto rubbed the back of his head, his blush growing a little deeper. Thanks, sensei. You don't have to thank me, Naruto. Kakashi shook his head, his eyes crinkling. I don't give out compliments unless they're earned. You should know that by now. The copy nin went through 3 hand signs, his right hand lighting up as his Chidori broke the silence. Now, what have you got that can match this? Kakashi taunted, readying himself to sprint at his student. Naruto smirked, his right hand coming up in front of him. Using just one hand, the blonde formed a Rasengan, spiraling sphere, in his hand. The blue orb took less than 2 seconds to form, from the expulsion of chakra to its formation into a solid ball. Oh, I don't know. I think this jutsu here could do it. The blonde squared off against his mentor, and without warning they both blurred towards each other. They reappeared in the middle of the clearing, their arms cocked back to deliver their jutsu. Rasengan! Chidori! Lighting-coated fist met swirling orb of chakra, either giving any ground. The two shinobi stared at each other, their faces less than a meter apart, both unwilling to give up first. However, after the stalemate continued for more than 10 seconds, they both cut off their techniques, flipping backwards to escape the inevitable explosion of power. Excellent work on mastering the Rasengan. You formed it with one hand and much faster than you used to," Kakashi stated before opening up his thigh pouch and extracting a kunai. "Now, I believe you have some skills and kenjutsu you want to show us." "Oh, I've got more than that, sensei." Naruto bounced excitedly, reaching for his left hip. He brushed his coat back, the side that hung down to his shins, revealing a small piece of dull gray metal attached to his belt. Etched onto the plate was a storage seal, and the blonde quickly channeled some chakra into it. Jaws dropped as his sword appeared with a poof, the Uzumaki's hand wrapped firmly around the scabbard-covered blade. The sword was a nodachi, with a slight curve to it, but that was where the similarities between it and other blades ended. It was far longer than the average nodachi at 130 centimeters, 51 inches, and at 6 centimeters, 2.5 inches, it was much thicker. The scabbard was a deep red, matching the Uzumaki clan crest, with silver trimmings on the end and opening. The guard was a silvery metal in the shape of the Uzumaki crest, with spaces between the lines making up the crest. The hilt was made of the same metal, wrapped with black silky-looking cloth that looked brand new. The end of the sword had a small red tassel on the end. Naruto grasped the hilt with his right hand, and slid the blade out of its sheath. The blade was made of an unknown silvery metal, with various seals etched onto the flat of the blade, increasing its durability, and keeping its edge as sharp as a razor, no matter what it might cut. The seals were apparently created during the forging process, all the onlookers noted as they stared closer. They were a part of the blade itself, the patterns created by a black metal of the same composition of the rest of the blade. "Say hello to the Uzushio no Ken, Kakashi-sensei." Naruto grinned menacingly, sealing the scabbard back into the seal on his hip. He let his coat's extended portion hang loosely again as he put both hands on the hilt of his nodachi. Despite the weapon's obvious size, Naruto handled it as if he was wielding a toy, as evidenced by the way he spun and flourished the sword. "Now, didn't you say something about testing my kenjutsu skills?" Kakashi was sweating profusely as Naruto settled into his stance. The blonde's legs were slightly staggered, with his left being further forward, and bent to a 45-degree angle. Both hands were on his nodachi, and the blade was positioned parallel to the ground, the edge facing away from the blonde. It looked as if Naruto was about to stab forward, and from what Kakashi remembered of his mother, that wasn't too far from the truth. "Wow, you remember a lot of the stuff my biological cousin used, don't you, Kakashi-sensei?" Naruto's grin turned from menacing to cheeky as he squared off against his sensei. "Why don't you tell our audience what this style of kenjutsu is?" Kakashi glared at his student, knowing that the blonde was paying him back for all the times he trained him and his other students into the ground. The kenjutsu style Naruto is using is the style unique to his clan. It is called the Mugen Infinite Sword style, and like the Kaitenkin, it relies on the user's overwhelming speed to be used properly. It is typically used with a single katana or nodachi, although there are some who can use two blades in conjunction with this style. The user's motions are usually too fast for any ordinary eye to see, unless the person has incredible speed and reflexes. High-level shinobi will be able to see the low to mid-level techniques, but the highest level is too fast for even my Sharingan to follow. This style, along with the Kaitenkin and their Fujitsu, were the reasons why the Uzumaki were so feared. The onlookers gaped in awe, excluding Yaiba. Even Jiraiya and Swanda were impressed, and the former had already heard most of this from Yaiba. "Oh yeah, don't forget the part where we can deliver multiple cuts with one strike," Naruto reminded Kakashi cheerfully, making the older man grimace. "So, shall we get started, Kakashi-sensei?" "Waiting on you, Naruto," Kakashi quipped, closing his right eye to focus solely with his Sharingan. The Cyclops' eye widened when the blonde disappeared, and he ducked as the blonde reappeared in front of him. The nodachi nearly cut Kakashi's head clean off, and the silver-haired jonin attempted to embed his kunai in Naruto's chest to get some breathing room. Naruto spun his blade, clashing it with Kakashi's kunai. The Uzushio no Ken bit into the kunai, its blade far sharper than the other. Kakashi, being the strong and taller of the two, if only by a slight margin, shoved Naruto back to give him time to regroup. The blonde slid back a meter, before he disappeared again, Kakashi going with him this time. On the sidelines, Sakura and Shizen watched, awestruck, as sparks from the two combatants' clashes appeared all over the training ground. That was the only thing two shinobi could perceive, as the level of speed Naruto and Kakashi had attained was simply too fast for them to keep up with. Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Yaiba all watched the battle with calculating eyes, noting the two opponents' flawless form and speed. Manami was still preoccupied with her objective of grabbing Tsunade's hair to care about the fight. Naruto and Kakashi reappeared in the center of the clearing, 5 meters between them. Both were panting, the latter more heavily, from the exertion of their high-speed combat. Kakashi's kunai was chipped and cut, a stark reminder that Naruto wasn't wielding a normal blade. "This has been fun, Kakashi-sensei," Naruto began, lowering his sword so it was parallel to the ground, the edge facing downward. "But I'm going to end this right now," the blonde shouted, tensing his muscles and channeling chakra into his bald. Uzumaki Kenjutsu, Senkarim, Uzumaki sword techniques, 1000 cuts. Kakashi, sensing the danger, leapt straight up. Naruto disappeared and reappeared behind and below him, right at the edge of the tree line, in the finishing position of a horizontal slash. The copy-nin and the onlookers, excluding Yaiba, wondered what was so special about that technique. They didn't wonder long. In the wake of Naruto's movement, from start to a little further than his finish, the ground was torn asunder. Thousands of small cuts, several centimeters in length and the perfect width of the Uzushio no Ken, were carved into the earth. Each one was deep enough to have severed Kakashi's limbs had he been hit. Everyone present knew that if that attack had hit, the silver-haired jonin would have been cut to ribbons. The tree that Naruto had finished near suddenly groaned, as if in massive amounts of pain, before the section at Naruto's shoulder height splintered into several dozen pieces. The intact trunk began falling towards the Uzumaki. Naruto reacted quickly, raising his blade and cutting the tree in half. However, the split second it took the blonde to accomplish this was all Kakashi needed. The jonin appeared behind Naruto, the plate on his gloves deflecting Naruto's reverse stab, another poised to slit the blonde's throat. A trickle of blood from the Cyclops' left hand showed that he wasn't completely successful in blocking the stab. "I win, Naruto," Kakashi panted, his breathing labored. His Sharingan was glowing in the light of the setting sun, as if it were daring Naruto to try making a move. Naruto chuckled, knowing that he was beaten. He held up his right hand, the left still gripping his no-dachi in its reverse position, in surrender. "I know when I'm beat, Kakashi-sensei. Guess I still have a ways to go before I'm at your level, huh?" "Not much farther, actually," Kakashi admitted, a tad reluctantly. He lowered his kunai, slipping it back into his thigh pouch, while pushing the blade of the Uzushio no Ken away from him. "Note to self, don't block the edge of a sword with my gloves anymore." He winced, rubbing the cut Naruto managed to deliver even with steel blocking the edge. "You nicked me pretty good, even with the plates." Naruto grinned as he unsealed his scabbard, flicking the blood off the blade before he sheathed. "Well, that's what you get for getting up close and personal with an Uzumaki." The blonde resealed his sword, turning to Kakashi to ask his opinion on how he did, before a fist collided with the back of his head. "Baka!" Sakura shouted in his ear, as the blonde held his head in pain. "What were you thinking? You scared me to death." "And you?" The pinkette turned her furious gaze on Kakashi, leaving Naruto to wallow in his head trauma as she advanced on the copying. "You're even worse than he is. I expect this kind of recklessness from him, but for you to dash." "That's enough, Sakura." Tsunade's voice rang with an unmistakable authority, causing her second apprentice to halt in her tracks. The profusely sweating, and somewhat exhausted, Kakashi profusely thanked the blonde Sannin in his head for stopping his former student's rampage. "But Tsunade Shisho." "I said enough, Sakura." Tsunade snapped, gently rocking Manami in her arms to keep the baby calm. The rest of the group was behind her, not willing to risk the wrath of an angry woman with chakra-enhanced blows that could level a mountain. This was a test for Naruto to achieve the rank of jonin, thus it needed to be far more dangerous and taxing on him. Otherwise, I couldn't be certain that Naruto had the strength to back up his leadership skills. The pinkette looked at her feet, suitably chastened, as her mentor turned her focus to the participants. Naruto had moved to Sakura's side while she was getting chewed out, still rubbing the back of his head gently. Kakashi had lowered his headband, once again hiding his Sharingan from the world, and stood behind his two former students. Albeit, he had to stand more behind Sakura than Naruto, seeing as the blonde was nearly as tall as him now. "Now, Jonin Hitaki, what is your assessment of Uzumaki Naruto's skills?" Tsunade asked, her businesslike tone and expression at odds with the cheerful redhead cradled in her arms. "Hokage-sama, Uzumaki Naruto has easily earned the rank of jonin," Kakashi stated lazily, slipping back into his laid-back demeanor. However, there was an undertone of pride in his statement, evidence of just how much Naruto had impressed the copynin. He was able to press Mai in both taijutsu and weapons usage, no small feat for any shinobi. His forms were excellent, though he could use work on his control, and there were virtually no openings for me to exploit. The ones I noticed were far too small for me to make use of, based off his sheer speed. His ninjutsu had almost no chakra waste, indicating vastly increased chakra control from his days as a genin, and he showed great proficiency in the usage of two elements. I'd say he has more than earned the rank of jonin, based on the report I read from his leadership test. As a matter of fact, I would say he could best most of the jonin in this village. Throughout his entire speech, Kakashi had not wavered or hesitated once, his expression blank and professional. Naruto's jaw dropped at the praise, and Sakura had a similar expression on her face. But mixed into the sheer surprise was embarrassment, for the former, and pride in both. Naruto's due to his accomplishments and Kakashi's praise, and Sakura's because her adopted sibling had become a powerful, respectable shinobi. This did not go unnoticed by any of the other onlookers, but they choose to keep silent. Very well. The Hokage nodded, agreeing with Kakashi wholeheartedly. Uzumaki Naruto. Tsunade snapped, causing the aforementioned blonde to snap to attention. Inwardly, Tsuwanda smiled at his respectful and professional response to her commanding voice. You have shown the necessary skills, in both leadership and battle prowess, for the jonin rank. As Hokage of Konoha and your cousin, I ask you, are you ready to accept the responsibilities of becoming a jonin? Naruto's face stretched into a massive grin, his brilliantly white teeth reflecting the glow of the setting sun. Happiness bloomed in his chest, both for the acknowledgement of his skills and Tsunade's familial reference, causing his eyes to sparkle as he responded. Hi, I am ready, Hokage-sama. The blonde bowed before his leader, out of respect and to hide the joyful tears stinging his eyes. Tsunade allowed herself a small smile, thinking about how much the blonde had changed from the loud, brash, and downright annoying midget who had brought her back to her home. Maternal pride and love leaked into her voice. Then from this moment onward, you may now consider yourself a jonin of Konoha. You are now eligible to apply for S-rank missions, the ANBU, and lead a team of genin. But for now, you may have a week off to rest and settle in before I call you in for your new assignments. At this, Shizen and Sakura broke out in a happy cheer, the latter grabbing the blonde in crushing bear hug. Jiraiya puffed out his chest in pride at his students' accomplishments, boasting that any student trained by the mighty Jiraiya shouldn't even need to take the jonin exam. Kakashi just smiled, proud of his role in Naruto's development, while internally thinking about how ecstatic his own sensei would have been for the boy. Yaiba simply met Naruto's gaze with a small smile and a nod. All the while, Naruto was just grinning like a madman, his eyes struggling to hold back his tears as he let Sakura squeeze the life out of him. The blonde knew that his dream was nearly within reach, and that he could soon become Hokage like he had always wanted. But deep inside his heart, he felt the absence of the one he considered a brother keenly, and wondered what the last member of Team 7 would have thought about his achievement. Tsunade allowed them to celebrate for a few moments, before calling all of their attention to her. Manami, having been squealing at the happy noises the people were making around her, looked at the blonde Sannin curiously, along with everyone else. Well, before we all head home, I would like to do one last thing. Tsunade slipped back into her commanding expression. Chunin Haruno Sakura, Jonin Uzumaki Naruto, Jonin Hataki Kakashi. She barked, causing the three mentioned to snap to attention. As of right now, I am reforming Team 7. It will now be known as Team Kakashi, with Jonin Hataki being in command. The three of you will be sent out on high-priority missions together, so I suggest you take this week to not only relax, but make sure your teamwork is up to par. Hi Hokage-sama. The three snapped, saluting their leader. Tsunade was about to continue, her plan to threaten Naruto with a demotion if he didn't bring Manami to first her at least once a week, if only to get away from her paperwork, when a foul odor assaulted her nostrils. Her hazel eyes widened as they drifted to the baby in her arms, the little redhead's face contorted in concentration. Instantly recognizing the signs from her time as a nurse in the maternity ward, Tsunade quickly passed the girl back to her father. Naruto, caught slightly off guard by his adoptive mother's sudden relinquishing of his daughter, realized exactly why soon after. Did little Nami-chan make a mess in her diaper? The blonde said in a light, teasing tone, unfazed by the horrible smell drifting from his daughter's bottom. A Kage Bunshin appeared next to him in a slight poof of smoke, showing his mastery of the technique, before Naruto handed the baby to said Bunshin. Right, take Manami-chan to our new home and change her, Yaiba and I will be there shortly. Should I not go with them, Naruto-sama? Yaiba asked once the clone shunshined away. The Uzushio no Hasho had standing orders from Naruto to protect Manami at all costs, regardless of the danger to himself or the blonde. Not that the first was ever stated by Naruto, but the brunette would do so for any member of the Uzumaki clan. Naruto ordering him to place Manami's safety above his own simply reinforced the point for Yaiba. Nah, they'll be fine. Naruto answered nonchalantly. I put extra chakra into the clone so it won't accidentally dispel if something happens to it. Still, are you sure that's safe, Naruto-kun? Shizen asked, having made her way to Kakashi's side. The medic Nin had scanned the copy Nin and healed his cuts, recommending he take at least one day off if possible in order to recover his chakra. It's fine, Shizen-ichin, I've done it a lot before. Naruto reassured her. Besides, Kakashi-sensei needs your attention much more than Manami-chan senpai. Sakura quipped, a teasing grin on her face. This comment caused both Jonin to blush slightly, though Kakashi's was hidden underneath his mask, but they made no move to put any more space between them. Oh? Is there something you want to tell us, sensei? Naruto grinned mischievously, waggling his eyebrow at the apparent couple. You are being awfully familiar with Shizen-chan. The blonde added, placing special emphasis on the way Kakashi referred to the brunette. Kakashi sighed in defeat, hoping to reveal the information at a better time. I guess the cat's out of the bag, Shizen-chan. If even Naruto noticed it, the silver-haired jonin trailed off, his one visible eye crinkling in amusement. Naruto pouted while the rest laughed at the copy-nin's light joke. Yaiba simply raised an eyebrow, not understanding the joke. Not fair, sensei, the blonde grumbled, kicking at the ground. We're just teasing you, Gaki. Jiraiya chuckled, slapping his student on the back. Go on, you better get to your new place and make sure your own Gaki doesn't use the clone for target practice. The Sannin chuckled as Naruto's face paled, the blonde remembering the last time Manami had been feeling playful when he changed her. Oh crap, we better go then. Naruto gave Sakura, Shizen, and Tsunade a quick hug, shook Kakashi's hand, and had sped off with Yaiba in tow in less than 10 seconds. I'll be here at the usual time tomorrow, sensei, Nei-chan. Bye. The blonde called back to his reformed team. Well, Sakura began awkwardly, not knowing what to do with herself anymore. I guess I'll go get some dinner and then head home, I guess. Oh, I'll come with you. Shizen added hurriedly, noticing a subtle look her mentor gave her. The brunette grabbed her fellow apprentice, nearly dragging Sakura off her feet. There's this new place I wanted you to try. Bye, Kakashi-kun, I'll see you back at the apartment. Kakashi and Jiraiya blinked olishly at the sudden loss of 2 of their remaining members, before the perverted Sannin turned to one of his biggest fans with a lecherous look. So, sharing an apartment, eh? What say you let me? Kakashi cut the Gamma Sannin off with a murderous look before Tsunade could flatten her old teammate. I don't think so, Jiraiya-sama. Your books may be wholly beyond measure, but there are 2 things I will never allow you to use for them, my students and Shizen-chan. The threat was accompanied by a slight blast of killing intent to get the point across. Fine. Jiraiya grumbled, pouting at the denial of such a promising source of research. Get over it, you pervert. Tsunade snorted, glad that one of the 2 women she viewed as her daughters was in good hands. I wanted to ask you and Kakashi something. The 2 legendary shinobi turned to the Godame, who wore a serious expression. Is he ready? If you had asked me this before we left, I would have laughed that henge right off of you. Jiraiya deadpanned, getting a snort from the other 2, one of amusement and the other of anger. But after seeing how much he's grown, both on and off the battlefield, I can honestly say that he's ready right now. He has a fairly good grasp of tactics, a frighteningly good grasp on politics, he is far more intelligent than most would ever believe, and he's nearly as strong as both you and Mihaim. Give him a few months, and he'll probably outclass even us. Both Tsunade and Kakashi were surprised by Jiraiya's confidence in the young Uzumaki, but neither could say that it was misplaced. Honestly, I agree with Jiraiya-sama, Kakashi admitted. I can attest to his political awareness, but just this one fight was a testament to how far Naruto has come. He fought with me on even ground, and only my experience, both in general combat and fighting opponents faster than me, kept me from being pounded into the ground. Even then I was hard-pressed to pull out a win. Had the fight gone on any longer, I'm certain he would have won. Tsunade nodded her agreement, her mind marveling at just how much her favorite blonde had changed. Alright then, when I get back to my office I'll make it official. It's barely sunset, and I still have a lot of that blasted paperwork to finish before I can relax. The buxom Hokage grimaced, not looking forward to spending more time with the bane of her existence. Dismissed. The 2 shinobi vanished in their own shunshin, Kakashi bowing to the Godame, while Jiraiya simply waved goodbye casually. The blonde paid them no mind, her attention on the sunset. The oranges, reds and yellows mixed together to create a soothing, warm look in the sky before gradually melting into the darkness of the coming night. So much like us and the next generation. Tsunade sighed, leaning against a tree while gazing at the day's end. The passage of time spares no one, and each age must end so the next can begin. She murmured, a melancholy settling over her. She looked to the heavens, watching as the first stars began to appear. Dan, Nawaki, are you both seeing this? Are you seeing the courage and strength of this young man, who has taken your dream and made it his own? The blonde wondered aloud. If you are, then please, protect him, and make sure he fulfills the dream that neither of you got to achieve. The blonde muttered, a bittersweet feeling weighing down her heart. Shaking off her reminiscing, Tsunade pushed herself off the tree, before vanishing in her own shunshin. Had she stayed just a moment longer, she would have heard the wind rustling through the trees, the passage of air sounding like 2 voices, one old, one young. What if Naruto mastered the 9 tails early? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoyed this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel, and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video, and see you guys in the next video.